before I get my mind too much set in one particular direction for the subject, did you by chance see Moonwalkers?
No, I did not want
No,
to,
all
and then
right,
I
I'll
just
close this page. I'll close this page then. No sense in me having this out. Okay.
it was one of those ones
That's all I had.
I was looking real forward to seeing it. Hold on, let me get my fucking tea.
And there he goes to get his tea, leaving me by my lonesome. Whether he leaves this part in the podcast or not, I don't know. I see him walk around the background, looking quite confused with his tea. Oh, here he comes back. We're good.
No, I was looking real forward to seeing it, but then it just kind of happened that way. I was like,
Shit happens, yeah.
I know it's like other stuff. I bought straight out of Compton, and it's got like a fucking 20-minute extended cut to it. I'm like, dude, I can't wait to see that, but I haven't watched it yet. Or I bought this like 3 weeks ago, and I've been wanting to talk on a podcast, but I still have yet to watch it. I bought the Green Inferno. I still haven't watched it.
Mm-hmm.
Just like buy it's just that just like that to me always just feels like the most American thing ever. What do? I buy shit, but I don't use it.
I got a big stack of comics that's been kind of staring me down. Well, it turns out last week, we should probably get introductions out of the way real quick.
Hello and welcome to the Old Man Orange Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunigan. But
okay,
just was that first part in? Did we just restart, or is that first part in there?
It's been there ever since I turned it on.
Okay, cool. Anyway, so I can continue that. All right. Wasn't sure I have to start over. So anyway. So, yeah, last week when I was talking about like, oh, I'm getting come on, old man, my leg hurts. Turns out I actually had like a stretched ligament out of place, and the thing just like really swelled up. It looked like I had a fucking baseball in the side of my ankle, like just shortly after we were done with that podcast. So for about 2 days, I couldn't really do nothing but really just have my legs stretched out, not do anything, and just watch Netflix. So I just got
like workman's comp.
I think I got something like that going. I mean, it was
that's what I got going with my wrist. That's like the same thing, except it's not the size of a baseball. It's like the size of like a fucking giant marble.
I only missed one day of work, so for that day, I'll get it for that day. But I don't really, But so that's not really what I was talking about though. But anyway, so I'm just watched the ridiculous amount of shit on Netflix. And one of the things I watched was actually this was on Netflix. I actually ordered this one, but do you want me to talk about it, or would you rather be surprised when you see it?
You can talk about it, because I'd like to say I'm going to see it like in the next day or two, but maybe I will, maybe I won't. If it's just like my other fucking stack of DVDs there, it could be a negative.
I saw an ad for it on Netflix. Not Netflix, on like Facebook, and I made that mixed up. Anyway, and there's this movie called Moonwalkers that just came out. And what it is Ron Perlman and Rupert Grint, the guy who played Ron Weasley in the Harry Potter movies.
That's what I thought.
And what it is
I'm like, I know that's fucking Ron Weasley.
Basically, it's this really dark comedy. It's almost kind of, to an extent, something kind of like, almost kind of like In Bruges or the Coen Brothers, something to that like ballpark. But it's kind of what it does. It takes that, everyone knows, not everybody, but like there's that theory that that Stanley Kubrick went and filmed the moon landing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is kind of like, that's not what it's about, but it kind of takes some of the premise of that. Basically,
which makes sense though if you do really think about it. Like in the '60s, if you were gonna get somebody to shoot your moon landing, that would be the guy to go for, right?
Exactly. And what
it's kind of like what they said about they think that Shakespeare wrote the King James version of the Bible because they're going, hey, if you're going to pick the best writers at the time when that book came out, wouldn't you pick Shakespeare?
That would make sense, yeah. So basically what happens in this, and that's they kind of mentioned that, kind of like you spilled tea on yourself?
No, it was just flaming hot.
Oh, okay.
It's like when you drink or eat something and you know that there's nothing you can really do by now. It's already there. It's already going to burn.
That's why you just got to go straight to beer. It's never, get burnt on beer.
Yeah, that is true. You never get burnt on beer. That could be a slogan.
Yeah. I came prepared. So anyway, what ends up happening is Ron Perlman is is this guy who just came out of Nam, and he frequently has sort of these flashbacks or hallucinations of people he killed or saw die in Nam. Like, you'll see someone missing half their face randomly, or see someone with worms in the side of their face, all charred and burnt up, you know.
But it's funny.
So, kind of, there's some moments. I don't know if it tries to be funny. There's a few moments that sort of tries to be funny, but it's more of trying to like play it serious. This movie definitely is a dark comedy, and what's up happening is the U.S. This part is true. I know for a fact this part is true, that they lost contact with the Apollo 11 for a couple of days. So like, well, how are we gonna? What if we don't make it? We can't just like let the Reds win the space race. So we're gonna just film the moon landing just in case. Well, just in case they don't make it, you know. And what they do is the plan is to get Stanley Kubrick, and even the military officer is all kind of like, you see that 2001 Space Odyssey movie? No, I didn't. Well, it don't make a whole lot of fucking sense, but it looks great, you know? So we would actually get this guy, Stanley Kubrick, and, you know, you're going to go to England? Like, sir, I don't know about this. I don't blame you for wanting to go to England. They're not, like, it's like, you're going to think they're all gay. They're not. They just act that way. They're British, you know? So it has, like, kind of that kind of humor.
Is it kind of like in Bruges, where it's got, like, comedy and dark comedy in it, but then it's also, like, a serious drama at the same time?
No, I'd say it's more comedy than in Bruges. Actually, here's a better example. It's probably more like, it's not as good as either of them, but it's probably more like Seven Psychopaths. It's more like that, where there's a handful of, like, serious moments, but it's more like, I think Seven Psychopaths has like a handful of like genuine, real moments to try to like make you feel, but most of it is just a dark, fucked up comedy.
Yeah, I kind of agree, because Seven Psychopaths is almost like a consistent comedy, where in Bruges, it's like, I think that's what I like about it. It just has the weird balance of being like a full-on serious drama, but then being full-on this dark,
the funniest comedy. Shit I've ever seen.
Yeah, like some of the funniest stuff I've ever seen, but they didn't go as serious as necessary, and that's almost like a cool balance.
Yeah, that's why I love that. That's one of my top 5 favorite movies, I think. But
it's so good, and like not that many people have seen it too. That's the thing. It's a fun one to always share.
I'll go back to Moonwalkers in just a second, but that one, surprisingly, that actually was nominated for. I didn't realize this. That was nominated for 2008, like best screenplay. It didn't win, but it was nominated.
It? Yeah. Well, there's always those kind of movies that, like, sometimes you see those award lists and you go, what the fuck are those 3 movies? Like, they're just like 3 random ass movies. I could see that movie being one of those ones at the time. Like, what the fuck is in Bruges? Some artsy sounding stupid fucking movie, I tell you. And then you watch, you go, oh no, that's not what it is at all.
This movie's like one of the best movies I've ever seen. But no, then there's another. Actually, I'll talk about Moonwalkers. I just want to get this out of the way before I forget. Fucking Matt. I mean, I don't know if it's gonna win, but it gives me just a small bit of faith. Mad Max Fury Road is nominated for Best Picture as well as Best Director.
It was the same with the Golden Globes. It was on there too, and I will have to say this, like, generally, I'm not the biggest fan of the award shows. Every once in a while, I just looked at the list. I feel like I look at it to slightly make myself angry.
Same here.
It's like the Golden Globes one. It's like, it's like The Revenant and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, okay, I can go with that. I mean, is that the best movie of the year? I don't know. I liked it a lot. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, hello, did you guys like not fucking see Hateful Eight? But that's all. That's all I really have to say. Or Mad Max. But the idea that Mad Max is in there, in a sense, blows my mind, because if you think about it, Wynn has like a balls to the wall not just even a slight action movie, because every once in a while there is some war action movies that kind of get in there. You got Saving Private Ryan, you got Braveheart, you got Gladiator, but those are kind of like, they're not balls to the wall action. They're not action. They're just, they're war movies, so they're pretty much in a sense half drama, half action.
Mm-hmm.
When has there ever just been? I mean, that's equivalent of getting like, having like Terminator Genesis being up on there, or even having like Fast and the Furious being on there now. It's just that thing. It's just like, you just don't ever. Action movies are those ones I never thought would ever get appreciative. It's like, that's my favorite genre. I always want to see that. It makes me so happy to see that. Even if it doesn't win, it is just amazing to know that somebody actually fucking cares for once about an action movie.
I think it's a couple of things. It's one of those things where people talk about the story's not that great. Just like, well, they drive in one direction, just turn around and go back. It's like, well, when you have a story that simple, you can focus on all the small little details. So, and I think that, the idea that they weren't trying to make some big bombastic statement, it was just a very straightforward movie. Out of that, they almost made like a feminist movie. And
well,
it wasn't
it's
even
almost
trying
all
to
kinds of different statements in one too.
and it's not trying to totally rub in your face like feminism, agree with it, feminism. It's just like no, we wouldn't have to do
not
that.
like
We
a
just had
death
to
proof one where you're like, I fucking like Kurt Russell. When the movie's over, it's like, this is not changing my view.
or it's just one of those things like it's just like no, you didn't have to like preach to nobody. You just had to make a movie with some badass female leads and have a strong supporting male character. That's all you had to do. And like that's because Furiosa is the real main character of that movie. So
That's
I
kind of
think
like every Mad Max movie though.
Mm-hmm. He's kind of like the man with no name.
He's just kind of gets strung along and doesn't want to be there, but then ends up being like the hero in the long run, and then leaves.
Exactly.
Back into the wasteland.
Kind of like Man with No Name. Only like I'd say Fistful of Dollars, he is the main character, but the other ones, it's kind of like.
Oh, speaking of Fistful of Dollars, I read this article today. It was talking about like it was like 12 movie sets you can go visit that are abandoned. Apparently, the Fistful of Dollars set is still up there in fucking Spain.
Spain road trip.
I was like, some of them that I read, it was like they were like weird fucking movies. I can't even think of off the top of my head, but it's like, who the fuck wants to go see the set of this? You know, I mean, there was ones that made sense. It's like, okay, Pirates of the Caribbean. Okay, I can get why someone would want to go see that. I can get this one and that one. But then I saw that one. I was like, a Fistful of Dollars set is still there. Whoa, back the fuck up.
I had to stop myself. Like road trip. Oh wait, we're gonna have to just hop off. We're gonna have to like hop off the car and get in the boat. We can just fly there.
We can fly there. No, we gotta take a boat. It's gonna be old fashioned. In fact, we're gonna have the boat. We have to get jobs on the boat, you know, to get there.
We're all like dressed like 1920s sailors. Like, what do I gotta do, sir? Just everyone's all like, just like in modern clothing. Like, just sweep and mop the poop deck. No, just mop the fucking deck.
Nobody calls it that
talking
anymore.
like that to me. Yeah.
Well, sure thing, Captain. I'll make sure I'll take care of all that for you.
No ladies aboard, is it? That's bad luck, I hear. Like, where the fuck did you come from? What are you talking? You know?
Stop throwing those women off the side of the boat.
The bad luck, sir. The bad luck.
You don't want the ship to go down now. Haven't you heard the story about the Titanic? Bunch of women on board. That's why it went down. You see.
This ain't iceberg territory, is it? We're in the Pacific. Fuck off.
Well, technically be in the Atlantic, unless we're taking a long ass.
Unless we're taking the long way. We're taking from California all the way around.
We got to go around. No, we can actually go through the Panama. No. You got to go all the way around the Horn. I expect to see penguins on this trip now. I read the book of. I said Captain Cold, but I mean Captain Cook.
Captain Cold.
I read Captain Cook now, and in that story, he went all the way around there. Some men froze to death on the ship. I prepared myself for this. So I don't think you even know what time period you're in anymore.
You're just wearing like a full on just like Eskimo like gear with the fur lining. It's like you're like the little brother in a Christmas Story.
Arms out,
arms down. Yeah.
And he's just like, what are you guys fucking doing in Spain? Oh, going to go see a Fistful of Dollars. Apparently that set's still there. Even Clint Eastwood's still there too.
Never left. Loved it too much.
We all thought he kept making movies, but that's just the spirit of Clint Eastwood. See, he can project his mind to other places.
Like, you ever seen High Plains Drifter?
Yeah, literally, that's who he is. But
you get like thrown off the boat like within 20 minutes.
Yeah, there's like, I know what's really bad luck. These guys.
So I should probably get back to Moonwalkers.
Yeah.
So pretty much the whole thing is Ron Perlman is sent with the job to go over to England, recruit Kubrick to film the moon landing. Along the way there, he's on the plane. He's looking at the file. Some guy next to him knocks like a drink over, lands on the picture, so it's all kind of smeared. So he's kind of going off his memory. And then
fucking Ron Weasley.
Ron Weasley is basically this manager for a band, and the band they're all shitty. They're not that good. They're a bunch of dumbasses, and they just pretty much he owes money to somebody he don't want to owe money to. Basically, some gangster, a guy who looks like straight out of a Guy Ritchie movie, and he kind of goes to his cousin to say, look, man, I just need to borrow some money. You have connections, you know people. Can I please just borrow some money? He's like, no, fuck you. Then he has to leave. He does a line of coke. His nose starts bleeding, runs to the bathroom. Within that time, Ron Perlman walks in and says, like, hi, we spoke on the phone. I'm here. I just need to talk to Mr. Kubrick. Da-da-da. I got a lot of money in this case. Yeah, you know, and he's like, oh, okay, yeah. He goes to his friend, the stoner, who totally looks like, which is a big bushy beard. He kind of looks at him and looks at a picture of, like, Stanley Kubrick. Like, we can make this work. And, like, trims the beard and all that. And then pretty much sets up, like, a fake meeting. And, you know, there's some comical stuff. I don't want to explain the whole thing because, you know, just what you see the movie. But basically kind of gets Ron Perlman to hand over the money. And he just thinks he's some Hollywood asshole. So he's like, fuck him. He's a Hollywood asshole. He's like, yeah, so we're going to go get the money. And he goes out partying with every intention to pay the money the next day. But the gangsters come to his house, find the suitcase, take all the money. It's like, oh, whatever. That's when Ron Perlman shows up. And he finds out that that wasn't Kubrick. So he's like, all right, so I'm going to kill the both of you unless you can, like, I'm going to kill the both of you right now because I just lost the money. Then Ron Weasley says something like, yeah, well, we're your only hope because you don't have the money, but I still know a guy that makes movies. So what they do is he says, okay, we got 7 days before the moon landing. So they go to some like mansion out in the middle of nowhere, and it's like a bunch of like really pretentious beatnik artsy fucks, you know, they're all constantly on acid and all that. And here's kind of like where the movie kind of loses a little bit of like steam kind of, because the concept alone is funny, but a lot of these characters are very annoying and very irritating.
The band
like
members,
these weird,
or the hippie kind of.
Well, the band members and the hippie beatniks, yeah, because I mean, there's a girl
Anybody's
there.
A goddamn hippie, you just want to punch in the face.
kind of, yeah. Well, no, there's a girl
anybody's
there.
doing poetry and has a fucking cat on the table, you want to punch him in the goddamn face.
The character, the girl that what's her name? Erica Sainty, she's like, all she is she's kind of like the pretty girl there, but she's like the only one of them that's not really all that super annoying. There's a really fat, obnoxious, like German guy there. He's like 300 pounds. And I get why he's there. I get what they're trying to do. But he's like this, maybe not 300 pounds, but he's this big fat guy, walks around in his underwear, constantly on acid in a bathrobe. And he's just like, he says, like, it's not going to be easy to make this movie right away. My last masterpiece, Bounce, took me nearly 3 years to perfect. And it's just him, like, in black and white, jumping on a fucking, like, on a trampoline in his underwear in slow motion.
Now, is this movie kind of, like, based off, like, you know, somewhat true conspiracy stuff? Or is this, like, all, like, a fictional story?
I'm going to go on the limb and assume it says based on the true story of how we didn't go to the moon or whatever, but I think it's doing the whole Fargo thing. There's no way all this shit happened. Maybe a little bit of it happened. Like maybe they did get, because there's a documentary. I've not seen it. There's a documentary that's saying Shining is Stanley Kubrick's, like, Stanley Kubrick admitting that he filmed the moon landing.
Yeah, because my dad he told me he heard about that on that Coast to Coast radio show. He listens to that like on his way home from work sometimes late at night. And he mentioned that to me a couple weeks ago. He's like, oh yeah, I heard this cool thing about Stanley Kubrick, about there's all these like hidden messages in The Shining that kind of point towards like, you know, moon landing numbers and NASA stuff and blah, 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 all kinds of weird things there. Which sounds interesting. I'd like to check that documentary out. I mean, that probably is somebody really fucking like reaching, but I still
the documentary's on there on Netflix. I wanted to see it. I just haven't got around to it yet. Because like apparently, what's the room number in Shining?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but
it was basically that he changed the number. Like I want to say in the book, wasn't it room 666 or something like that?
Yeah, I think it was something like that.
And in the movie, he changed, apparently, according to this documentary.
Fuck Stephen King.
Yeah. If you break it down numerically to the Roman numerals and trace that by the Egyptian alphabet, that makes it say, fuck Stephen King. No. But it's actually, apparently that's like the, I don't know if it was, not the Apollo number, but just some kind of like NASA room or plan room. So no, that doesn't go any of that because Stanley Kubrick's not even in the movie. They mentioned they're going for Stanley Kubrick.
There's not even a Stanley Kubrick. Somebody's playing him like Stanley Tucci and fucking that one.
No, that's not happening. It's just it's all just
Peter Sellers movie.
Yeah, that Peter Sellers movie.
It's literally just called the Peter Sellers movie. Like, what's the title of that Peter Sellers movie? Oh yeah, I think it's just called Peter Sellers Life.
Peter Sellers movie. Life and Death of Peter Sellers.
Yeah, there we go.
Even though we don't see him die, but we see him. Maybe it's kind of like was the artsy, where we see him die inside. One of those kind of things.
Yeah, because we just seen that one movie where he like floats away on the cover.
Mm-hmm. So what happens here is they're trying to get this movie done, and it's this stupid, pretentious, annoying artsy fuck who's just trying to like make his visions. I have a vision. There is jellyfish aliens floating around, you know. So it's still funny, but there's a handful of these characters that really just kind of like, oh god, shut the fuck up. And you're just trying. By this point, both Rupert Grint and Ron Perlman kind of like Ron Perlman's, I want to kill this fuck. And by this point, they're both just kind of on the same side, like no, you know, they're kind of like working together like this. Almost brings them, like their frustration with all these other people almost kind of brings them
closer
together in some way. Yeah, which is kind of funny. But then stories clash. The person that there is like actual action in the movie that is kind of violent, and so kind of stylized in a certain sense, which another thing makes me believe very, very, very little of this is true. I think it's more like they heard the concept, like this might be a funny, weird, fucked up action comedy, and went with that. So
because eventually, when you told me about it, I thought it was when I first was going to look up, I thought it was going to be a serious movie. Then I kind of looked at it, and like, well, this looks all swinging '60s like and stuff, and now it sounds like it's kind of like a dark comedy. So that made me kind of question like, if it's going with more like trying to take all those like conspiracies and turning it into a full-on story, or if it's just taking the idea of it and running with it.
It's taking the idea and running with it. It's taking like one of those conspiracy theories you hear about, and it's kind of running up, making its own story out of it. And what ends up happening, basically, near the end of it, the whole production's going to shit. At some point, Ron Perlman goes back to the gangsters that stole the money, kills a bunch of people with Rupert Grint with him, gets the money, they leave. The Washington's kind of like, where the fuck's the footage? We haven't heard from this guy. We don't know what's going on. And so then like CIA and the gangsters come together at the spot at the same time. Big shootout happens. They kind of get away without having to film it, basically. So, you know, it's like, all right, yeah, if this did happen, there's no way they're fucking revealing that. So, you know, but pretty early on in the movie, I figured this is all just kind of all fictionalized. So, but then, you know, it ends on this sort of upbeat note with the survivors getting away, and then you see them watching the moon landing, like, oh, yeah, and it kind of ends like, oh, they actually made it to the moon, good, you know?
Well, the cool thing just sounds like a movie, like something I've never heard of before. I mean, I know that concept, but I don't think I've ever seen a movie like that, so that sounds pretty neat.
It is a pretty good movie. It is worth seeing. I would say probably on our ranking system and our Moulton's ranking system, I'd probably say 3 out of 4.
I know. We're like the only people that use the Leonard Moulton ranking system. Everybody else goes either with the 1 out of 5 Netflix, or the 10 out of 10. we
10 out of 10 seems too big.
We go with the classy 4 out of 4.
Yeah, like I'd say like definitely probably this movie's around like 3 out of 4. You know, like it was enjoyable. It was like. It could have been. I think it had the workings to be like an awesome movie, but it just ended up being just pretty good.
Just falls a little bit short. And would you say?
Well, just because all the hippie beatnik characters are also annoying, and plus the guy that was pretending to be Stanley Kubrick from the beginning, he's there the whole time, and he's just this guy. He's just this hapless fuck who's always stoned, and when they need him to like focus and like be there, he's always kind of like, I took a bunch of mushrooms to like ease to like calm down, but I can't, you know, and then he just always like just fucks up. So it's like one of those things like first few times it's kind of funny, then it's just like you're fucking it up, you know.
Frustrating, like you just can't fucking do anything.
He's that character, yeah, and it's been like, why didn't this guy die? It's like if all these characters I hated died in the movie, this would probably be like a 4 out of 4. but I liked Rupert Grint enough, and and Ron Perlman. He's one of my favorite characters.
Like Ron Perlman, yeah.
Yeah. So, and it was cool to see him be in something. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love him as Hellboy, and he is in stuff where he's not like in a bunch of makeup, but he's always the side character. This is like a movie where he is like the main character.
Yeah, that's pretty cool there too, because I think about it too. He's always kind of like, you know, the Anne character or something like that. Now, is this movie out in theaters right now, is what you're saying? Like limited release?
It got a limited release, but I was, since I was kind of bedbound for about 2 days, I just watched it I got it on like demand on Netflix, and not Netflix, on PS4, and just watched it.
Well, because I saw it on Amazon there, so I'll put a link in the. If you want to support the podcast and you want to check out this movie, what you can do is in our description, you can scroll down, click through. It'll take you to the link for this movie. It won't cost you anything extra, but it'll help support the podcast. Now back to the show. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, so check that movie out. It's pretty good. It could have been a little better, but it was still a good movie. And it's surprising how violent. Like, there's a part where, like, when Ron Perlman goes to get the money back from the gangster with the help of Rupert Grint, he blatantly just kind of like, this one guy's like, oh, I don't knock. He's like, listen to me, you Yankee fuck. He just turns around and shoots the guy in the fucking head with a sawed-off shotgun.
Oh, that's badass.
Like, top half of his head just goes away.
Well, it just sounds like it's one of those movies, like, may not be a perfect movie, but cool concept, something different, and then some good violence and good comedy along the way.
Yeah, I'd say it's more comedy than action comedy, but they definitely have a little bit of. It's kind of like it definitely seemed like it was sort of like In Bruges or Seven Psychopaths inspired with Guy Ritchie, as well as like kind of that Coen Brothers kind of like we got kind of a con we're trying to pull off in X amount of time with quirky, oddball characters with dark humor.
Huh.
So I always think Coen Brothers whenever I get that combination.
Yeah, the quirky, the kind of comedy with some murder mystery and so on going on.
There is one thing I will kind of say funny regarding the character that I found really annoying that was trying to be like nothing to the actors playing those characters. It was just the way the characters were written. But the guy who was the best friend of Rupert Grint, who was totally fucking up the whole time, for whatever reason, the German filmmaker guy loves that guy. He says, he is my pixie. You get over here. No, you leave him. You leave him. He just loves that guy. And so at some point, they get back. She's like, why are you wearing that? He's like, oh, he made me. And he's like wearing like this elf outfit and he has a little tambourine. You know? Like whenever they go, he says, no, he stays here. He's my muse. You know?
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Well, I learned that there's a real sweet movie coming out this year. Technically an old movie, but an old movie coming back into the theaters. I got this from Arnold Radio News, our buddy's podcast, and there's going to be a T2 back in theaters.
I heard about that.
25th anniversary. It's going to be 3D, so I mean, it'll be kind of like what they did with Jurassic Park. But I don't care. It's fucking Terminator back in theaters. I never got to see Terminator in theaters, so I'm really excited.
I'd be down for saying that. Yeah, I heard them talk about that in that episode. They were saying the question they were answering, like, well, is it going to be the director's cut, which is like 2.5 hours long by that point, or like 2 hours and 20 minutes, or is it going to be like just the standard like cut that everyone like really knows well?
Well, the thing about that movie though,
that was like the big thing they're discussing.
I don't think it'll be the theatrical cut, and the only reason I say that is that's one of those movies that you almost don't really watch the theatrical cut anymore. It's sort of like Apocalypse Now. You pretty much always just see the Redux version. It's kind of almost hard to find the theatrical one. You either have to go out and buy the special edition version or track it down, or even Blade Runner too. You know,
I was about to say Blade Runner.
The theatrical cut is not the main version of the movie. That's like the bonus. Like, yeah, if you do want to see it, we got the real one here. And I feel with Terminator, it's sort of the same way, because every version you go out and buy, I've never owned a copy that was the theatrical cut only. Every one I had always had some form of special edition, because I got like the original VHS, and it was kind of weird because it was like the half special edition. It didn't have as much as like the DVD and the Laserdisc and the other ones so on, but it's just still had, you know, the footage built into it, you know, and I think that was like, you know, a mid-90s VHS. So it wasn't like, I mean, maybe day one VHS that came out was probably the regular cut, but it seems like from that point on, you always are getting special edition. So I will assume that it will be, because this, you know, nobody's going to balk at a 2 hour and 40 long minute movie in the theater. It's not that big of a deal. It's like Lord of the Rings or something.
Well, now it almost seems like a 2 hour and 20-minute movie is almost kind of like the norm for like a spectacle event kind of movie, you know? Like I'd be kind of surprised if Suicide Squad comes out and it's under 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's true, because, you know, yeah, it used to be, it seemed like about like in the 80s and the 90s, like 2 hours was about like the regular length. And if you go way back in time, I mean, like 3 hour movies are so common, like in the 50s and 60s and 40s, like sometimes there's a copious amount of just long ass. But you look at Ben-Hur, it's like 3.5 hours, or no, I think it's 4.5 or something. It's like ridiculously long. Mm-hmm. And now, you know, there's a lot of movies like that. They just did humongous length films. And then for, I think, 70s, 80s, and 90s, back to shorter. But I know ever since Lord of the Rings, we're kind of back to like people can accept a 2.5 hour long movie easily.
Yeah, because I'm thinking back. I think I noticed it's mainly just on, and don't take this as me because these are like some of my favorite type of movies, like big superhero science fiction films. Those are now the movies that are like usually 2.5 hour movies, and you think it was something kind of like you said, Ben Hur, which is people say, well, you don't get it. That's a movie that's like a massive scale. It's an epic story. We're trying to like make it live up to this story or something to the
He meets
lines of
fucking Jesus in the movie. I mean, how much more hardcore does it get than that?
Well, now really, I mean, not trying to piss off religious people here, but really closest thing we got to modern religion now, for the moment. Not saying it's have as much of a long lasting impact, but probably like I think you said it on the episode when it was the first episode when I was gone off the podcast for a few months. I think you said to Guy Dawsey, now superheroes basically and all that kind of like almost movies, not just superheroes, just movies is almost now kind of like our morality tales now.
Well,
kind of
superheroes
you almost
is really
have
like because you could take
nearly as much worship for them as you see. I see more people wearing a Batman shirt than I see like Jesus necklaces.
I'll say this: it's like Batman, Superman.
We just lost a couple subscribers, but
well, yeah, the people that listen to this show, I think, would have been lost already. Like, but you think about it, it's like Batman and Superman's like their virtues and all that stuff. That's like that is the way you want to walk. Maybe not necessarily so much like Frank Miller Batman. That's like kind of walking that thin edge there, but general regular
like punching
Batman,
kids, calling them retarded.
yeah, and grabbing 10-year-old boys and going like, "Boy, you've just been drafted into a war."
Yeah.
But like in general, though, it's like I look at Superman. Superman is technically our Jesus. Everybody's got their kind of thing. If you're Norse, Thor is your Jesus. If you're Christian, Jesus is your Jesus. If you're Buddhist, Buddha's your Jesus. No matter what religion.
He's American Jesus. That's a good point.
Superman is technically, that's like if you're a comic person, it's almost really your Jesus. And I'm going to say this between even both Marvel and DC. Once you agree that Superman's your Jesus,
things just go a lot smoother and better in life.
Well, what I'm saying is that, like,
once you allow Superman into your life, everything will just pan itself out.
Exactly, but look at it. It's
just send
as far as like
just send.
As far as comics go, he's kind of like he's what starts that superhero trend. He carries all the good virtues, and he's the person you want to look up to. He's there to save you. If you fall out of a window, you don't pray to Jesus, you pray to Superman.
You just send $10 a month to DC.
And if you get that $10 a month, we can build a ship that can travel out to Krypton.
Go back to the promised land, just like Superman would have wanted. We're waiting on his return.
I love.
All hail that Superman.
There's that episode of South Park. It's like a really old one. It's on the season 3, and it's the second Starvin' Marvin episode 1, and it's got like the Christian 700 Club channel thing on there, and there's a part where they're off in like another galaxy in space, and then it cuts to like the 700 Club. It's like, now if you send your $10 in, we need to build a galactic space cruiser to ward off. It just gets with so
proton torpedoes.
Yeah, with proton torpedo, and it just shows like old ladies calling in and giving money and credit cards.
At some point, he's just kind of, now if you'll just keep on, because it was some celebrity, I don't remember who, but it was some old-timer celebrity. He says, yeah, so if y'all just go call in again and give us hyperdrive speed amplifiers in order to get to the planet so we can continue to spread the word of God and also upgrade them proton torpedoes, what are we doing? He just like pauses and stops partway. Why are we still doing this?
But I don't know how we got off of Terminator 2. I don't even know how that Batman thing went.
Is that a Kylo Ren mug?
It is. I got a Star Wars set of mugs, and he's on one of them, and Chewbacca's on another one.
Okay, well if it came with Chewbacca, I guess it all bounces out, right?
That's okay. I think Kylo Ren will balance that.
Is she? I think. Oh, I don't dislike the character. I don't dislike him. He's one of those guys like that's. For how he turned out, that was the reason why I saw this Kylo Ren merchandising. Like, I think I know what's gonna. I mean, I'm not saying like I fucking knew it. He's the spoilers. He's fucking Han's kid. Not saying that, but and he's a fucking bitch. But it was one of those things where I had a sinking suspicion he would be like something kind of like I said earlier, a kid who just discovered punk rock, trying to like live by these fucking virtues. He just found out like last week. So I think so. I'm kind of like I like him, but I think he's gonna like. as time goes on, to be a better villain.
Exactly. But yeah, somehow, some way that all related from our Terminator 2 back in theaters thing, which really, that is, to me, like, I still wish, I don't know why that, like, big theaters don't just throw out old movies all the time. Now, I probably will say this, every single time I've ever went to one of those old movies that's there's nobody fucking at them. Like, when we went to go see Jurassic Park, I remember it was the first showing of, like, when Jurassic Park was put back in for its 3D thing, and what, was there maybe 10 other people there other than us, would you say?
There was you, me, Cisco, Laura,
And, like,
maybe
maybe
RJ,
10 other people?
and then like maybe 10 other people.
And then I
Yeah.
went to go see it like 3 days later, and there was nobody in there. So I mean, like, I guess it is to be said that I think as a lot of people, like, this what happens is they go, "Oh, that's really cool. That's coming back in theaters. I would love to see that." But then when the time comes, like, to go to see it, they're like, "Well, I do own it right there on DVD. Do I really need to go to theaters and see it?" And then I think they kind of talk themselves out of it.
Well, I wanted to see it because I never saw Jurassic Park in theaters. I never saw the first one. I saw every other one in theaters, so I was like, I might as well go see this one.
I've seen Jurassic. That's the movie I've seen probably the most in theaters. I've seen it 4 times in theaters.
I think the most I've ever seen any movie in theaters has been 3 times, and that was Batman Begins. Batman Begins. Somehow,
I saw.
just out of a weird.
I was gonna say I saw Troy 3 times in theaters, and then I saw Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one, 3 times in theaters. Now that was due to the fact they came out at the same time, so we would just go see, we'd movie hop those 2 movies together.
Saw Revenge of the Sith 3 times in theaters, and I saw. Don't judge me on this, because I know you'll be the most judgmental. It was more of just a weird coincidence of hanging out with a group of friends, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna go see. Oh, okay, I'm already hanging out, so I guess I'll.
I saw
tag
Wreck-It
along.
Ralph 3 times in theaters.
No.
I might be dead if that was the case.
I'm just like, I look like somebody who just got watching the Ring video. Just my mouth is all stretched out. I'm all like pale blue. Just like, oh, time number 3 did it to him. But no, it was fuck. What was
Scary
it?
movie?
It was no, fuck no, dude. No, it was it was a hangout. It was not the hangout. The hangover.
It was the hangout.
The hangout. The straight to DVD ripoff. No, The Hangover. I saw Hangover 3 times just out of a weird coincidence.
Yeah, sometimes those things happen. It's strange that, like, a lot of times the movies you see more in theaters, they're not always necessarily like the movies you like the most. It just happens to be that, like, maybe you see it once when it first comes out, then you see it again with your friends, just somehow happens, and then you maybe see it with, like, your parents or something way later on too, and you keep going. But
that kind of that it was something kind of like that. I saw it the first time, then I was with a friend, and like we couldn't think of anything to do. He says, "I haven't seen I don't know why I call it the Hangout, The Hangover." Went to go see that.
You want to go see The Hangout? It's $4 cheaper.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't have Zach Galifianakis, so why not? And then we ended up seeing, and then like I was hanging out, like, hey, we're gonna go hang out with a group of friends or whatever. I'm like, okay, what are we all doing? We're gonna go see Hangover. I'm just like, I saw Hangover, this fucker right here. He was there again, So like, okay, whatever, And that was, but I don't have a problem with the first one, but I get all the criticisms for the next 2. But anyway, no, I actually Wreck-It Ralph though. The sad thing about Wreck-It Ralph is if they do what they say they want to do with number 2.
They're pulling for you.
I die a little inside saying this, but I might go see it if they do what they say they want to do with number 2. When they said originally Mario was going to be in Wreck-It Ralph 1, but he was way too expensive. Bowser was a little cheaper, but Mario was way too expensive for like the scene they had for him. So like instead,
that sounds funny. Like Mario's too expensive. He's not showing up today.
He doesn't show up on set until Sonic the Hedgehog shows up on set.
Yeah,
they
don't want to be in the same scene together. You can shoot it separately, but they can't be there together. There's still that old feud going on.
Just do that thing where it's kind of like you shoot one side of the room, then you shoot the other side of the room at different times. The boys, movie magic.
Yeah, exactly.
You could be talking to us. Well, look at the screenshot. It's over his shoulder. We'll use the stunt double. It's not a big fucking deal.
I will say that
he may punch the stunt double. He hates him that much.
If they do throw Mario into Wreck-It Ralph 2, and they do go of like, oh, he's a main character, almost like Batman is in the Lego movie. I will say this. I think that Wreck-It Ralph 2 could redeem itself. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and be positive. I think it could. Wreck-It Ralph 1 being one of like the top 5 worst movie experiences of my entire life. Sounds so fucking like that's the worst, but I kid you not. I don't remember ever being that angry in a movie theater.
Well, I think it's because if you go back to before that we
We
saw the
were the
movie,
most like
we're so like
supportive fucking
enthusiastic.
like listeners. We would have gave $10 a month to fucking that movie if they were taking a space galactic cruise.
Yeah, and I was so like I think the worst thing is it wasn't shitty the whole way through. It was so good at the first 20 minutes and not even like it's not even like the writing was like that amazing. It was funny enough and it was clever enough. It wasn't like the best stuff I've ever heard, but it was
And it
good.
had cool
It was
cameos of
good.
video game characters that you never thought you'd ever see mashed up like this.
I just piling on top of each other. And even if they weren't like original, even if they weren't like characters you knew, there's still enough. Even when he goes to like the like Call of Duty ripoff Gears of War
Mm-hmm.
place, when he goes there, it's still, it was still entertaining enough. It's when then it's also like, okay, he's in Candyland. Okay. All right, whatever. No, he'll get out of here. Again, it's Mario Kart. Okay. He's still here. He'll get what's no. No!
And then to top it off,
No,
there was
you
just
just
the
have to
most
like,
obnoxious little girl that was like, I remember because some people told me I was like, it's fucking like children's humor, and they're like, well, it's a fucking kids movie. I'm like, it's a fucking family movie, is what it is. I was like, family movie by definition means that someone from 5 to 95 should be able to all enjoy it equally. The second that you start throwing in like 5-year-old jokes, that's when it starts to go, no, fuck that. I think that also just,
yeah.
it's like little, I mean, like a couple of those jokes maybe is fine, but when like every single joke is there shooting for a fucking 5-year-old, it's like,
Like the Oreo.
yeah, it's just like, hello, like, that might say like that's what movies like the fucking Nut Job are going for. They're shooting for like those low end kid jokes, or even like the Alvin and the Chipmunks, that new one. I don't know why we always go back to that. I've never even seen that movie. I've just seen the trailer, but I feel like I know everything that movie represents from that trailer.
Well, I took my nephew to go see The Nut Job. Like that was the second movie I saw, I think year before
Which really, if
last.
nobody has any idea what the Nut Job is, it just sounds like some other kind of movie. Like, I took my nephew to go see the Nut Job. It was his first time, going to a nudie booth.
Yeah. Like, boy, it's gonna happen sooner or later. Might as well happen now. You know what I'm saying? I punched him in the shoulder. He started crying. Like, come on, it was a bro punch. Don't be a pussy.
Later on, we're gonna get some stogies and smoke them behind the alley so we look all cool.
You drink that whole Coors, boy. That's a Coors Light. That ain't shit.
It's not a Keystone now.
So we end up. I remember taking him to see that movie, and there is this moment. I guess it's kind of like I don't hate parents or children, but there was this moment where just like I don't want to be you. I don't want to be you, and that's what
You're
happens at the
saying
end of
this
that
out
movie.
loud in the theater, grabbing your head.
Yeah, that happens right at like okay. So at the end of the movie, I said it like right after I saw that piece of shit, which I barely remember the movie, but I remember this. At the end of the movie, what they did is because that was actually a half. Because I even like did a little bit of research after I saw the movie. Like, how the fuck? I just gotta know how. I'm like, okay, it was a joint picture between a South Korean film company and a Canadian film company. So at the very end of the movie, out at like they start playing that like that song by that guy Psy, that Gangnam Style, and they have like a little CG Psy jump out and start dancing, doing that stupid little dance he does, and then have a bunch of characters dance with him from the movie. That's like what the ending credit sequence is. So for the ending credits, they have all the characters doing that dance with the character, and I'm just like, oh,
Kill me now.
No. It was like some Clockwork Orange shit. I was like, no,
in the jar,
no.
like tied up.
All the kids behind me, they like grab my hands, like no. They all pry my eyes open. Watch it, watch it.
Children holding you down.
Yeah, no. So what ends up happening is like, I'm just like no, and then all of a sudden I get up. I'm just kind of like almost like dizzy, just like too much stupid shit. I can't hit. Then I look. And then, like, because we're sitting like in the front row, like in that big space between the chairs and the screen, there's a bunch of little like infants and toddlers like dancing to the song, all waddling around and dancing to that stupid fucking song. And then you get the parents all with their cell phones out, like feeling like, oh, that's right, Tiffany, that's right. They're all dancing, just like,
no.
I'm not one of them.
Fucking fall over, just start having a heart attack there on the ground.
like that song gets all warped, like, oh, sexy lady, got kingdom. Becomes like
You're just like rolling on the ground, vomiting.
yeah. Like fucking Neo when he finds out like none of it's real. He says, "No, get away from me!" Like stumbling back.
You're like shaking kids, taking their fucking popcorn and throwing it across the theater.
I saw my nephew. He was jumping up and started dancing to the song. I'm just like, we gotta. I was literally kind of like, dude, we gotta go. We gotta fucking.
You
go.
just grab him by the arm, fucking sternly walk out.
Yeah.
Be like, I don't like. I don't. Like, we're getting out of here now, or you're staying for life.
It's like, you know, like a fucking, as if like a parent took like a kid to go, we're gonna go see a play. Then it ends up being like, I don't know, like a fucking like Chip and Dale show or something. Like, oh no, I miss. This is no kind of establishment to bring a child and, you know, like take him out. It's almost kind of like that, kind of like, no nephew of mine will be watching such trash, you know. So he's all dancing like, we gotta go, dude. Like, Uncle Ryan, we gotta go, you know. Just grabbed him.
But don't you want to stay and dance? We are all dancing and having fun. You're like, no, it doesn't have you. Cover your ears, damn it. Cover your ears.
And then when we get in the car, like, of all things, I'm just like, we gotta. She's like, Uncle Ryan, can you put on the Gangnam Style song? I'm like, no, we don't have that song. He's like, do you have the song?
I have it right here. You can play it off my device. He slowly, his head just slowly turns and fucking looks at you. And then
like almost mannequin-like. Like his whole body's like sitting straight forward. His head slowly, just like almost like Exorcist mannequin style, just turns. You know, his arm, left arm, comes up holding the device, but it's not. It's like almost like a doll's hand. It's hardly even moving. Just at the socket, it's moving. What'd it do to you? I got in the car though, and he actually he loves the Sonic the Hedgehog soundtrack. So I'm like, okay, let's put something good on for you. Something you could tell, like, yay, Sonic, you know. So.
Yes, here's some good positive stuff. Enjoy your chili dogs and being a dick to your friends.
Yeah. A little Crush 40 for you. Here you go.
yeah, good type stuff. There was something I read, because Crush 40 was, you know, doing the next whatever Sonic game's coming out song. They did music since Sonic the Hedgehog 3.
Really?
Yeah.
Like for Sonic or just around? Like just for Sonic, or they've been around that long?
No. They did music for Sonic since Sonic 3.
Huh.
Either that or Sega's like, well, we didn't get Michael Jackson. What's the next best thing? Crush 40!
I don't know. I was just killing time on Spotify, and I came across. They don't have all their CD. I don't know what the fuck it is. There's like literally they have. I'm gonna actually turn it on here. I'm gonna go on my Spotify. I'll name it off. They actually have a page, a Crush 40 page. They don't have a whole bunch of albums on here. A couple of singles,
like
and then
every
songs.
artist has a page on Spotify, just about.
Yeah, but usually it's just one of those things. Like I don't know. Sometimes just in weird spots. They appear on like, you know, different soundtracks of the game or whatever, which is to be expected. But then I'm looking. They got like they
do some anime too.
I didn't know about that. Maybe that's some of this stuff is.
Thanks.
Because they have like a best of Crush 40, and it's not even like a big like Sonic the Hedgehog, like not a picture of Sonic giving like thumbs up, like yeah. It's like just literally a blue. It looks like very 90s. It looks like very kind of like Sugar Ray-ish kind of. It's like, or maybe even Stained. I know that's two very different bands, but it was kind of like an album cover for something kind of like that. It's like blue. There's like, it looks like cement. It's all cracked and kind of very high contrast or something. It's kind of hard to tell what's going on. But anyway, and like there's a bunch of, it's like 19 songs on here. I was just like, because I was feeling kind of like nostalgic. I'm like, I want to listen to like some stuff from the 7th grade. So Sonic the Hedgehog, here we go. And then I came across, there's a bunch of songs on here that are not in the games. I have no idea where the fuck they came from, but yeah.
Huh, I'll have to check that out, because I like all the Crush 40 ones with the Sonic Hedgehog.
It's like half Crush 40, half stuff I've never heard of before.
Is it as good as the Sonic stuff, or I mean, is it like that same like style?
It's in the same style. It all sounds like it's trying to be kind of like 80s butt rock type stuff. So, you know, it's in that same vein. I was kind of looking at some of it, though. It's kind of like, it's one of those things like Crush 40. I mean, I know part of me, I mean, don't take me as being like some cynical dick here. Part of me kind of like, kind of rolls your eyes and hears some of the lyrics. But then again, there's also this big nostalgia feeling that I get when I listen to it. And it kind of just reminds me of, being like, playing these games back when I was a kid, and kind of takes me straight back to my childhood. So I'm going to say, probably stuff from Sonic Adventure 1 up to probably like Sonic, like, well, this is not even like that great of a game, but Sonic 06 is probably the Crush 40 stuff. Like, oh yeah, this song,
Yeah, well, it's probably one of those ones like without Sonic the Hedgehog, you might never ever know what that band is, or maybe even care to listen to that band. But it's just kind of like the way it all tied together, and just listen to it in the game, and it all works out. Because to me, it's like that Crush 40 and Sonic the Hedgehog is like goddamn right. That's why I was so glad in Smash Brothers Brawl, or not Brawl, but in the Smash Bros. Wii U one. I like how like they got like 5 or so Crush 40 songs on there for Sonic the Hedgehog's level. I'm like, that's badass.
There's a few songs on here. I'm like, I never heard of that before, and I'm just like, do they play for other shit or what this is or whatever? And I don't know. I almost imagine it just being something to the effect of like, because I only heard them on soundtracks to that game. I could not find an album of them anywhere. Like, back when I was really looking for that kind of stuff. So I was just like, where, like, are they just like, the song, like, all right, guys, like, how's that new song coming along? Just like, Sonic, like in a cage, like we're working on it for the thing. Well, I need something by tomorrow. You gotta write it fast. It's like, oh, okay. Don't let me call Knuckles on you fucks. Gotta go fast, bro. He like zooms out like, oh my fucking god, we've been locked in here since 99 or 90
apparently 94 or whatever.
94, 93.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess Sonic. Yeah, it might have been 93 when that came out, or 94. Fuck, I don't know. No, I think it was 94 because both that and Sonic and Knuckles came out the same year.
It was like the use your illusions of video games.
that was like the best way to describe that. We couldn't fit it all on one cart, so we had to split it up. We had that many songs.
There's actually, I'm wondering here. I mean, I know we've had some trouble with copyright shit before, not because of us, but just because of, just wrongly accused shit. So it kind of caused some troubles. I'm really wondering though, if I can play a song right now, and if it's us critiquing it and talking about it, if that is totally fine. If it's in the
probably not. I know every other podcast gets away with it, but we're just the ones that get caught for doing shit for some reason, and we never even do stuff. That's the worst part. There's so many other podcasts that are just like, I'm playing songs left and right, and I can do whatever I want.
But then again, and then we 40,
and then we we don't even play anything or show anything, but we talk about something, and then they go like, you fucking talked about Throne of Atlantis and Jupiter Ascending, you fucks. You're getting red flagged.
Well, it's just one of those things they assumed we like had a link to like watch to have it up. It's like, no, we fucking didn't, So they just kind of went strictly off like, oh, they talk about Jupiter Ascending, so that must mean there must be a link to it. So into some Pirate Bay or some shit,
Yeah. But
so I'm wondering, well, it's Crush 40. It's Crush 40. It's not like we're playing Red Hot
Warner Music. As long as it's not Warner Brothers, I notice that you're pretty safe, but
so I'm not yeah, so I'm going to say let's want to take a shot in the dark here because there's one song I kind of want to play and then talk about.
If you play it really quickly, just play like a snippet of it. Don't play too much of it. I say that not being fearful, but just I've dealt with too much of that shit before from them.
I guess I'm the one saying we could do it, and it's like you're the one that has the account's under your name, and you're the one that has to like talk to it. Like, what's the big fucking deal?
I'm the one that's gonna write the fucking letter later on, explaining why we did something.
You just signed my name, too. I can say I'm in with you. Yeah. All right, so. Here's a little song. They actually do. This sounds like something that, this sounds like something like two, hardcore, Sonic fans and will play at their wedding. It's like, this is our song, Like, they're. Here it goes. May the bride and groom come to the dance floor. Please remove the furry suits. I stand right before you, feeling like a million words.
I can see this in a Sonic the Hedgehog game.
Right before me.
I feel like Bob and Tom when we talk over stuff. I don't know why, but just because whenever Bob and Tom would have that, like, here's a comedy track, and then they just start talking over it. You're like,
oh yeah.
We're old.
Well, that whole thing right there, that was just me of like just. I mean, I just wanted to share that little thing. We're not going to play the whole.
This sounds weird. I have to say this. I've never heard that song before, but that right there, when I listened to it, I'm like, that sounds like 90s, early 2000s. It took me back. I literally had like fucking Jaws pan camera in front of me, just like sucking me back into like a different time period.
That's like the scene. The guy is kind of like, things just went bad. This is like the teen movie. Things just went bad with the girl that he really liked. But then he turns, he sees his tomboy best friend who's suddenly in a dress for the first time. Light comes on her, zoom in on his face, zoom in on her face, and then
zoom in on Sonic's face.
Then all of a sudden...
It's a wacky comedy about a guy, a girl, another girl, and a Sonic the Hedgehog.
Not a sound can be heard. When I think to myself, what am I trying to see?
It's just like, this is the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. It's really just a romantic comedy, and there happens just to be an animated hedgehog.
It's like
tell me there's no tails, there's no Dr. Bot. No, it's a romantic comedy about a guy, and he's trying to go after this girl, but he doesn't realize that this other girl, who's his best friend, is really the one to go for. And to top it off, his other buddy is a talking hedgehog.
But it's not a big deal. It's just the talking hedgehog is there. It's not like he's there like.
Nobody even questions it.
It's just kind of like, and he doesn't even have like a whole bunch of wild or funny, wacky lines. He's just like, "Hey Jerry," like, "Oh hey Sonic, how's it going?" "Oh, just hanging out. I just got done like going on a walk, and just he doesn't have any like
nothing interesting about his life. It's not like he's battling Robotnik or doing anything. He's like, "I made you some chili dogs, thought you'd be hungry after school." So Sonic, what'd you do? "Well, I had to go to work today, I think the boss is gonna lay me off." He says that I'm just kind of, I'm a little too fast for him.
Which is, I tried, just me doing my thing, man. I think it'd be even funnier if it's just like his name is Sonic, but he just really has no qualities. He doesn't even like run fast, whenever you see him,
he just walks places and stuff. He smokes cigarettes and he sits up on top of the roof looking at the moon.
Mm-hmm. And he's like also like not even like he's like maybe in like that many scenes of the movie. He's like in maybe like 4 scenes, and they're usually group scenes. And he's the guy who gets the third line every other,
It's either that or you can it's one of two things. Either he's there, nobody notices it, or Sonic the Hedgehog's his imaginary friend that he talks to when he needs to solve out his problems. I don't know how to go about it, but they both kind of work.
I don't know. I think the shamelessness of the first one of just like, let's use this character that so many people love and admire, but not even give him any of his qualities. Kind of like just the shameless fuck you of it, just almost makes me kind of like, you know what?
That's balls.
Go for it. Just go for it. Rather the other one, it's just kind of like, well, Sonic's his like door to happiness. Rather than trying to find meaning out of like, misusing a character, just go like. Have him go, you know what? Fuck them. That's what we're doing, because that's what's cheap. And don't fucking pay to see it. Just like having the balls to do that, just being like, you know what? I don't like you guys, and I'm mad about this, but I will see this movie.
I'll say this. I bet you Crush 40 is like that kind of band. You could take all their songs together, or not all their songs, but you could take a good group of their songs and fucking write a movie just off their songs. Like, they would literally tell you key moments of like what happens here, what happens there. So based on their songs and like the feeling you get from them.
When the water monster comes out of the ground and tries to take over the whole city, like almost like just sums up the whole movie for you, or the whole story. It's kind of like that part in Basketball when he's just like, he's
driving in the car
down. He's just like, your best friend sold you out, your girlfriend's mad at you. Like, says because you made a bad deal and it ended up getting a bunch of kids again, like going to labor unions, and just like. What? He's like, double taking, and then he's just like, look out for the Chevy on your left.
Yeah. But no, you could literally just take like whatever is on that greatest hit CD of Crush 40 and just go like piecemeal. You could do the same thing with like The Offspring. The Offspring's another one of those bands too. You can just take like 10 songs from The Offspring and you got a fucking movie there.
I feel like the Offspring.
It writes its fucking self from that point on. You could probably take a random 10 songs from the Offspring, and you got a fucking movie. It's almost one of those ones. It's kind of like an art project. You put them, you put 10 Offspring songs on shuffle, and whatever 10 ones you get for your first 10, that's your movie you gotta fucking make.
Okay, so you start off with One Fine Day. You start off with The Kids Aren't All Right. You start off with all this optimism. Everything's going good, and things are getting a little rough. But then you know
Kids
what?
Aren't All Right's not really. Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
But then you're like, you know what? I'm not gonna let that stop me. I'm gonna have one fine day. But then all of a sudden you get busted by the cops. So you have to be stuck in doing like community service. So what you get out of that? You got this guy who you don't agree with, and you got to keep him separated because you have to work with this.
But then but in that process you don't get separated. So then you go to prison. So then there's the when you're in prison.
Don't be no one's bitch. We're gonna spread across their whole like genre, their whole career here, and then you get out of prison, and that's where.
And next thing you know, you're cruising down the beach with your OC butt.
Oh, we're going with the new shit. Okay.
Oh, we're mixing it all together. And then you see some cops, and then you go LAPD.
And then
we're going old now.
And then from there, you end up meeting. They got a handful of songs about girls they love. So just pick any number of those. But then that bitch won't. Then you get that whole song like, "Why don't you get a job?" or whatever that fucking song is.
Yeah, I mean, like literally, like that's the thing about those kids. There's just some bands that they got songs that could instantly. That's why you probably see the Offspring in more movies than like a lot of other bands. And it's not because they sell out; it's because their music fits well for movies.
I'll say that if you had like that whole like if they had the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, like not this bullshit romantic comedy we pulled out of our ass, but if you had
fucking weird Sonic the Hedgehog movie the Sonic the Hedgehog movie that nobody wants coming out this spring.
Who knows? Maybe 5 years from now, it might end up being on like an episode of Junk Food Cinema. Maybe. Who knows? But I think that not likely. But I think like Offspring is definitely one of the songs that would be on the Sonic the Hedgehog movie soundtrack. Say that movie came out like in 2001, 2002, that would be definitely on
easily.
Yeah.
That's totally like that'd be like if there's a Sonic the Hedgehog movie 2001, it'd be like with music by The Offspring. Crush 40, Sum 41, Blink 182,
Creed.
And
I'm not
Creed.
saying bands I want. I'm just saying bands that would be on there. Creed.
Yeah.
Possibly the Baha Men.
System of a Down.
Lit. No, System of a Down would be too heavy. I'd love to have them be on there, but that'd be too heavy. Probably Lit, though. I can seriously see Lit.
What if you have like, or you could have like, and Rob Zombie for the theme of Shadow.
Shadow wasn't. Yeah. Well. Okay. Yeah. Let's jump to 2002. It's 2002 or 2003 movie. We'll go that way. Wait, did Adventure 2 come out in 2001 or 2002?
2001.
2001. Okay. And then they'd have Nickelback do a song in there about like it's kind of like how Nickelback basically
up and I lost the emerald. Be like, no, all of Knuckles' music.
Sad hedgehog.
No. All Knuckles' music's done by Nickelback. Like, I fucked up again and I lost the emerald.
No. All of Knuckles' music has got to be like some like shitty like white guys trying to be black band.
Because that's what you expect. That's what you expect. I like the Trad Kroger sad like I'm a
sad kid now.
like living on an island by myself, but I'm gonna party it up. And fuck some people's days up.
Cause I'm the chosen one.
With Fist of Furies in my palms.
Chad pulls away like, look, I said I'd come and record, but isn't this shit a little too on the nose? I mean, do you want me to just... I mean, the song I did for that Spider-Man movie, it's basically a 9/11 song, but I kept it kind of like hidden. Want me to? I could crank this shit out in 5 minutes. Just give me 5 minutes. I can come up with something. Like no. He's very passionate about the guy who wrote this. Very passionate. Just keep with it. Just like
he goes to the corner, fucking Knuckles is standing there. It's like, whoa, what the fuck? He's like, he's real. It's like, yeah, you didn't know that.
Yeah, how do you think we're making?
Did we explain that in an M&M's commercial that a lot of these guys are real? He's like, I thought that was a commercial. He's like, yeah, just because it's a commercial doesn't mean it's not real. Fucking what? You don't believe everything you see? It's all real, Chad. It's all real. Your Canadian mind just can't accept it all.
You fucking Canucks. Okay, I guess I'll get back
that
to
goddamn
it.
Knuckles song. We're just gonna punch you in the dick.
Okay, here we go. So I lost the Master Emerald. God, this is so on the fucking nose. All right, anyway. No, because if you listen to that song and like, I took me because like one of the songs that always kind of takes me back is like, "Goodness, the wings of the hero, known to save the day," like in the Spider-Man soundtrack.
The Spider-Man soundtrack.
That soundtrack really takes me back because that was literally like when that movie came out. That was like right before that was the summer of where I moved from San Jose to Sonora. So that's kind of when I was trying to see all my friends live. I'm not trying to.
Like, and I need a hero to save me. Not gonna look away.
Yeah, sure. I was trying to build up a moment, but fuck it. Yeah, we just don't go right to the joke. That's fine, But anyway, but basically, what we end up doing is like that was like one of those albums I listened to on top of loving that movie. I listened to that album a whole lot, and now looking back, I just for the sake of nostalgia, pulled it out, listened to it again. That is such.
On it.
It does. They do the Spider-Man theme. That is such like a 9/11 song. I didn't realize it because that whole movie came out like the same year as 9/11 or like not the year of, but it was basically kind of, no, it wasn't the year of.
Before 9/11, but it was same year.
Yeah, well actually the movie came out. That movie came out
like in May 2001?
Came out in May 2002 actually. No, it didn't come out it didn't happen the same year as 9/11, but 9/11 was still fresh in our heads because you had September and then that movie came out in May.
Was Spider-Man really 2002? I thought Spider-Man was 2001.
I thought it was 2001, but yeah, because 9/11 happened. So.
I guess you're right. I guess it was X-Men. But that was back in the day. I was like, you're going to get fucking X-Men and then Spider-Man next year? Jesus Christ, who do you think you are?
My life, yeah, I kind of date my life by movies, really. That's kind of like, well, what happened?
I know, it's like, there was The Matrix in 99, and then there was X-Men in 2000. Okay, I know where I'm at.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, what happened in 2008? Dark Knight. Dark Knight happened in 2008. 2009.
Everything else is sort of a blur.
Yeah. But no. So anyway, listen to that words. It's just like blatantly, just kind of like like being all-American hero. But it's like truth be told, it's probably better than I actually like that song unlike most Nickelback songs. So
Well, it's Chad Kroeger by himself. He's like, I gotta do this one alone, fellas.
And the dude from Saliva, he says like, it's my Canadian duty to support our brothers below us, by singing about a boy in tights saving the day.
That boy in tights, an all-American hero. I don't really know what that means, being from Canada, but I can still sing about it.
We got Wolverine. He's over here solving Canadian problems. Because Wolverine's Canadian, right?
Yeah, he's Canadian.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And then there's that Canadian team of X-Men, which I'm drawing a blank on what they're exactly.
The Omega Force.
Like there's like the Sasquatch guy, and there's a couple other characters. They appear in one episode of the animated series. They
kind of went off. What was funny about the Omega Force is just like, I seen the logo. I think it's the Omega Force, Omega Squad, something like that. Literally in the logo, the O is a Canadian maple leaf. That's just so fucking awesome. It's like they're not even trying to hide it. Just like, yeah, this is the Canadian X-Men right here.
Yeah, exactly. Get used to it.
And like the thing about that is, I remember when I was reading Brian Michael Bendis' New Avengers run. I mean, who knows? Maybe they come back, but they just like died off screen so unceremoniously. Like there's some like super like some like Nova guy all like setting fire, kind of like causing explosions and shit, just going around the countryside. Like, don't worry, we're here. They're like heading towards it. Then all of a sudden, like, they're all dead. The Omega Force is all dead. Like they probably got brought back to life at some point, but. Like, they're just Canadian heroes. I'm not going to worry about them. Just like, oh.
But they're kind of cool. Cause they're actually, like, there's a bunch of cool characters in there. I've never really seen that much on them. I've just seen them in, like, the animated show. And every once in a while they appear in something else. But it probably is one of those ones to go if you went and pulled some old issues out and see what they're all about.
I'm guessing that. I can't imagine they just, like, kill them off screen. Never to use them again. I probably came back eventually if I had to guess. But speaking of superhero shit, the new Suicide Squad trailer just came out.
Yeah, I saw that. I had the hardest time looking for it because I was looking for Suicide trailer number 2, and I was like, oh, well, technically I guess I consider this the official number 1 one, which, what the fuck was the other one then?
That was the Comic-Con trailer that just got leaked. You wouldn't find that playing in theaters anywhere. That was literally just, it got leaked.
Okay.
And they just said, fuck it, and just threw it out there.
Okay, because that was like what threw me off at first. I was like, why can I not find it? I'm like, okay, official trailer number 1. And then I was like, oh, okay, now I can watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Because at first I was going I've seen the first one. I'm like, where the fuck's the second one at? And then I was like, oh, it is. That's what it is.
I'll say this real quick. I've seen I'm not sure. I'm not gonna say like. I mean, look, I really want to see this movie a lot, but I'm not trying to oversell it. I think this is possibly. I'm not more excited to see this than other movies, but this is probably the best movie trailer I think I might have ever seen. I'm not trying to oversell that. Like I'm not looking more forward to. I'm probably looking more forward. I was looking more forward to Star Wars than I was to this, and I'm probably looking more forward to Dawn of Justice than I am to this, or whatever Tarantino film. But I'll be honest though, this is probably single-handedly the best trailer I think I've ever seen.
Huh. It was a pretty good. I watched it on a phone, so sometimes that doesn't give you like the exact. That's one thing is trailers don't have a good enough impact sometimes when you watch them on your phone. It's like you got to see them at least on the movie theater or at least on a regular TV to like really dive into it. So it felt cool. I'm not saying anything like that, but I think the coolest part is just the fact that you get to see all these characters that feel like they would have never got screen time anytime soon, and now they're like all on there, like Croc and Deadshot and Katana and so on. And I think that's just badass.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's one of the things that was shocking. It kind of like there's one side of my brain, a very tiny side of my brain, that was just almost kind of like, oh, they're using Bohemian Rhapsody. I'm not really mad, but that song is too powerful and too important just be used for an ad campaign. Then I would watch the trailer. I'm like, fuck it, I don't care. This trailer's too awesome. Fuck it, I don't. There was that like immediate thing where it was just like, I don't know. But the more I was watching it, it was just like the whole like. Other side of my brain's like, explosions, don't care, cool,
I can't remember. Is the Bohemian Rhapsody song used in the Wayne's World trailer?
I don't know if it's used in the Wayne's World
trailer. Because
whenever I know it's in the movie.
I will say this. When I think of that song, that's where I first go to, strangely enough, is Wayne's World.
I guess I didn't really watch. I seen Wayne's World when I was a kid, but I didn't really watch it that much. I know there's a part of their headbanging in the car, and they may have used it in the trailer. Shit, they used it in a Mountain Dew commercial. And I think that was when Freddie Mercury was alive still too.
Yeah, like Freddie Mercury drinks Mountain Dew. What do you do?
Yeah. So it's one of those things. I think it was one of those.
It's a statement below. Mountain Dew does not give you AIDS.
I think it was one of those things though. Like I think it was they said like that was the curse of Bohemian Rhapsody, that like they lent it to Mountain Dew in that same year he was diagnosed, and I was like, oh fuck, But I think. Like the music gods, like how dare you, It's like he's doing the world a favor. He's doing the world a favor, really. He's helping people. He's stopping like overpopulation by having people kill off their sperm count.
Yeah, there you go. Mountain Dew.
That's the way I view. Yeah, Mountain Dew. But anyway, so
just drop a bunch of Mountain Dew on third world countries. Be like, here, drink up, Billy.
Can you have babies? No, but I also have diabetes. Well, at least you got one problem down.
Well, welcome to Club America.
Yeah. Here's some blue jeans in the Bible.
Hope to see you at the bar at lunch.
So
Suicide Squad.
Yeah, the Suicide Squad trailer, though. Just the way that trailer all pans out, because it was synced perfectly with the music, the beats, the sound effects, the action, and they show so much, but at the same time, I don't feel like anything's really spoiled for me.
No, because I'll tell you this, I don't really know obviously it's a Suicide Squad story, so I know that, but I'll say this, if I didn't know who the Suicide Squad was, I don't think I'd still have any idea what was really going on in that movie. So, But I think that's a good thing, though. That's what you want in trailers. That's why I think the Star Wars trailers are technically some of the best trailers to also come out in the last while, because we've been known to have some kind of like bad trailers. I mean, Terminator was kind of like the Genesis one. I think that was the only downfall of that trailer. Is like it just should never have shown John Connor. Whoever thought that was a good idea, I don't know. It's kind of like the Dawn of Justice trailer. Like, why they showed Deathstroke in there?
Doomsday,
yeah, fucking somebody with a D. Not a good idea. Like, I don't get this. I mean, this is. I can see. Okay, if I have to go on the other side and see like why anybody would do that, same with like the Terminator one. It would give just a little bit of like, hey, you throw that trailer out there and you get people talking. Like, okay, I get that, but it's almost like you ruin sort of the integrity of the movie by doing that. It's like, Do you want more people talking about your thing online for a couple days going, what the fuck's going on here? Or do you want to just save that integrity of your movie and wait for people to see it when it comes out? But
Well, even though I still think the Genesis thing was a mistake to show like John Connor is actually the bad guy of the movie because he gets overtaken by Doctor Who, I think that whole thing should have been like more of a surprise. But I can kind of see, wait, John Connor's the bad guy? I can see that. I can kind of just barely, I can kind of see that. Doomsday, showing Doomsday, even though I still want to see that movie, it's fucking dumb to me. I already had a sneaking suspicion he was in it, but I would have rather be surprised. And the thing about what was dumb to me, that Doomsday, showing that Doomsday is in it, everyone who knows Doomsday is in that movie, everyone who knows who Doomsday is probably going to go see it, or they're already judgmental enough they're not going to go see it. Everybody who doesn't know who Doomsday is, he's not going to sell that movie.
yeah, that's true. It's one of those ones. It's a weird. Those are those weird ploys that you just don't know. Like, I guess they're totally a toss up. I always just think that you should keep your movie secretive. I think that's how it is. You know, you could almost even say another trailer that kind of gives it all away, which it's not really. It doesn't really actually ruin the integrity of the movie in this one, strange enough. But the Revenant trailer really gives away the entire film in that trailer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously the stuff in between, no, but like story wise, it's like it's all there.
You know, he comes across them and they fight at some point.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, that one, I feel like it's a simple story, so that's okay. It's not like it's gonna be like, oh fuck, I didn't realize Doomsday was on the Revenant too. You know, there's something really weird like that. It's more like, okay, that's kind of fine there, but
give that movie the Academy Award for being that ballsy shit.
Yeah, he fought a bear. Then he fought Tom Hardy. Next, he fights Doomsday to get his son back.
Doomsday's like, that bear was my pet, you know?
But no, the Suicide Squad one, the cool thing about that is I just like it. I don't feel like it's spoiled. I really don't know what's going on. I mean, obviously the Joker's there. Obviously the Suicide's going to be called in from jail to go on a mission. And are they taking out the Joker? Is that what it's supposed to be? I'm not too sure exactly.
I'm assuming they're taking out the Joker. If I had to guess, there's some more supernatural crazy shit in this because Enchantress is in the movie. And there's at some point, it's like one of the weirder, cooler shots of the trailer. You see something, you can't really see what it is exactly, but there's like sort of like some humanoid like figure that looks like a mass of like moving. I'm not sure if it's tentacles or what, but some weird moving mass that kind of as the subway's coming out, it kind of splits it into pieces as it's moving towards it. And it looks like it's all made of magic. So that might be the Enchantress demon coming out of her and just taking like a physical form. Or I can possibly see it. Maybe I'm wrong here. I'm guessing the reason they're going after... I'm guessing Joker probably got his hands on a major weapon, and they're probably just trying to stop Joker from getting that weapon.
Yeah, I can see that too. Well, I'll say this. This is the thing I like about this movie. It's made the way that I like superhero movies to be made, where you put a lot of characters into it because it's a fucking movie. Because I've never been a big fan of, like, in a sense, I call it like the basic format, where it's like, what do you got? You got one good guy, one bad guy, and a couple supporting characters. And then the next movie, we'll put a different bad guy in there, and it'll be a very slow process of working our way through. And I know some people like it because they're like, I want them to focus on that one bad guy in that movie because he deserves so much screen time. And I go with the Batman 66 style. You know, when you go to that movie in Batman 66, since it's the movie, and you mostly only get one of them. I mean, nowadays we're kind of like, we get a lot more, but I still think it's like, you know, you don't get so many movies as much as you get like a TV show. You throw all the big villains in there, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And you make it a big, huge, like, kind of like thing going on. You make it like an Avengers style movie. I mean, not like the first Avengers, but kind of like how the second one is. You got more stuff going on. But that Batman 66 movie, that's what's good about that one. It's like you got Joker, Catwoman, Riddler, Penguin, you know, all his big enemies right there. And the cool thing about the Suicide Squad one is, okay, so far they don't really show a whole lot of bad guys, but how many characters you have in just one movie? I mean, there's like over 10 guys in there. You never get that really, you know what I mean? You have to work up a lot to get that far into it.
I think sometimes people complain about there being too many characters or too many villains in the movie. I don't think it's that. I think that the problem is they have too many subplots that don't really matter going on in the movie. For instance, like, like you probably didn't need Rhino in Amazing Spider-Man 2, or you just didn't have to advertise him. But
Yeah,
I
but that was
think
more just like a horrible lie.
yeah, but I think the big thing with Amazing Spider-Man 2, like the big problem with that movie, is it had too many subplots. I think you probably could have pulled off a good movie with, because I actually I watched while I was visiting my folks. They had that thing on demand. And like it was like one of the free movies to watch. I just watched it again, first time I seen it since theaters. And watching it, the thing about that, we'll come back to Suicide Squad in a minute, but I'm just going to use this as an example for something. The thing about that movie is there is a good movie in there. There is a good movie. It's just bombarded with so many subplots because they're trying to build up on top of so many things. I think it really, if you just took out like a handful of those subplots, made Jamie Foxx less cartoony, less like Jim Carrey's Riddler, and
Less
just kind of
rapey.
like less rapey, yeah, less rapey, and like jerking off to his like mural of Spider-Man. You know, I
Uh-huh.
think that like he probably, I mean, you would have probably had one of the strongest superhero movies because the thing about that movie is it's just so jam packed and there's so much shit going on, and I think that it is kind of like a little overwhelming, might be too strong of a word, but I just think there's just too much shit going on in that flick. And I think that if you just condensed it down and just got rid of kind of like that whole bullshit, we're broken up, we're together, we're broken up, we're together, that whole thing,
Yeah,
and
that's always annoying.
and like kind of simplified the whole thing with Harry's sickness. Like he's dying, he's sickly, but he's still like a 19-year-old guy who can somehow break into this high tech facility himself and break out like Electro. You know what I mean? So if they just like ironed out some of that type of shit, I think you'd probably have one of like the best Spider-Man movies. But since there's so much shit going on, it's just like, I think they kind of fell victim to the whole like over like being bloated. But I think people immediately go to too many villains when I don't think it's always there's too many villains. Because Batman Begins, to me, that's one of the smoothest running superhero movies. And the thing about that movie is it kind of does all the things that we kind of complain about superhero movies, but it does enough things right to where that doesn't bother you.
That
It
one's
takes
like the
some
perfect example of like that is the origin movie done right, and that one works because the thing is, it's like you never got to see that big origin with Batman. Like nothing, not in the '66 one, not in any of the Tim Burton ones, not in the animated series. So that's what made that movie work, is because it wasn't there yet. So it's Spider-Man's one of those ones I feel like everybody sort of knew that story without even having to be. Hell, you didn't have to read a comic or watch anything. You just sort of knew that's who Spider-Man was. It was just kind of like ingrained in memory. And of course, yeah, you know that Batman, like, okay, his parents were shot, but you didn't know how he came from being a 10-year-old boy to being Batman. That wasn't always there. I mean, anybody who read the comics, obviously, but just general knowledge, I don't think that you could ask somebody on the street, in 2000, like, how did Bruce Wayne get from, age 10 to 26 and become Batman? To be like, what are you doing? Get off the fucking boat. But it is one of those things. Like I think that's kind of it. Really going back. I'll just say this on Amazing Spider-Man 2. That movie right there. It's like even though that movie has like some kind of weird things in it, I actually still like that one quite a bit. And I think if I went back and watched it, knowing that like okay, yeah, they do kind of screw you over at the end, but this now, I think I'd even enjoy it even more just because just accepting it for what it is and taking it that yeah, they were going to try to do Amazing Spider-Man 3 and make that movie like probably the shit, which I bet you that movie would have been totally badass. Whatever they had planned for Amazing Spider-Man 3, I bet you was going to be a really sweet film. Too bad that the fans just bitched and moaned like usual, and that's why we don't get cool shit.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sure that he'll be fine in like Captain America 3 or whatever, but it's one of those things where, and there's worse things than that, but it's kind of like, I don't know, sometimes, I mean, look, you don't
I'll
have
say
to
this.
like,
These are technically not the fans, because anybody who bitches and moans that much, you're not really a fan. That's all I have to say. If you complain like lightly, but complain like, progressively, then yes. But if you're just going like worst Spider-Man movie ever, you're not a fan. You're just like some loser who fucking thinks he's got this grand opinion, and you're not really helping the cause. What you want to do is like be like, hey, I liked what you were doing in this movie. It might not have been perfect, blah 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 blah, but like that.
by that rationale, I'm not trying to one up you here at all, but by that rationale, it's not that the thing didn't. It's not that it was strictly the fans that brought that movie down. It was just the movie did not make nearly as much money as they hoped. They thought they had I think it just did okay. It didn't really do great. It just did okay, and the thing about it was, I think by that point, we're already kind of starting to see superhero fatigue. People are already kind of like, I don't mean, Dawn of Justice isn't that far away. It feels like I keep on thinking it's a summer movie, but I keep on forgetting, oh, wait,
It's like,
that's
a couple
March.
months away.
That's right around the fucking corner. So I think that a lot of people are starting to get a little kind of like weary on. I was talking to like Jill and Wes a little bit ago, and they both like this shit. They both like this shit. Wes more so, but I was talking to both of them, and they said something to the effect of like, "Look, Ant-Man, I'm sure it's decent. I'm sure it'll probably be a fun movie, but I have zero interest in really seeing it. I mean, I'm sure when I see it, it'll be decent, but I got other things going on right now. Where before it was all new Marvel movie, I'm gonna see it. Just like because Avengers just came out, I'm still catching up on this. I'm still catching up on that. There's just too much coming out. Superman, Batman's coming out, so I think that we are going to reach that point where superhero stuff does decline, but it's not going to like people are saying it's going to die off like the Western, and they're almost saying it kind of like, yeah, man, superhero films they're just going to fucking crash and burn, never be made again. Like that's not the case. I just don't think we made as much. I think we'll probably still get 1 or 2 a year maybe, but we won't get them like 4 or 5 a year, like or 6 a year, like what it seems like it's been, you know?
No, yeah, I can't agree there. Well, because it's like, in a sense, there's been really about a 15-year strong run since you could say almost like, let's just say X-Men kind of starting that, next trend of superhero movies. I mean, you got the 90s trend from like when Batman came out, and that kind of had, a handful in there. But I think that the real big strong one started with X-Men, and from that point, the copious amount they made. So, and right now we're at that time period where people are accepting fantasy and all that stuff, but it's going to turn right around really quickly where people are going to go, you know what I want? I want a movie about two people fucking sitting down talking. I don't want them to see them fucking in space fighting each other or anything like that. It's like, I just want it to be kind of, more real, believable like that. And it's going to turn back into that real soon.
We're going to get people wanting just independent dramas pretty soon because they're going to get like so burnt out on superhero shit. Don't get me wrong. I want to ride this train out for as long as it fucking goes because I like this. I love this type of shit. I like the, if it's done well, I can like the independent artsy shit too. But if it's, I'll be honest, much more my passion lies with, fucking explosions, space, and that kind of shit. So, I'm
exactly. I'm fine.
What can I say? Yeah.
You can go the rest of my entire life, and I'll be fine if you just keep making fucking Batman and Superman movies and so on. That's where I'm at. I'm like, that's totally cool with me. But I could see because I see a lot of people that just like the superhero thing has become kind of like they're just not always there. They're like, yeah, I know it's going to be probably good, but I just don't have the care to see this and that and so on. And it's kind of slowly dying off. I get it, though. I think it's just because it's an overwhelming amount of them coming out for the average person. I think it's
a couple of things also. I mean, what's really cool to you and me, like some of the strongest points that gets you and me to go see it, is I think some of the stuff that might scare other people off to a certain extent. Not entirely, but to a certain extent. Like, I think people like us, we're really happy that it's all connected. That, that there's a movie coming out called Captain America, yet, for some reason, Iron Man's there, Hawkeye's there, Black Widow's there, and it's not going to be a big deal. They're just there. And it's Captain America 3.
That just seems natural to guys like me and you.
Yeah, because it's like how it is in the comics. And I said this before, Avengers 2, it's not my favorite superhero movie. I'm going to say it's probably within my top, maybe my top 5. Maybe this is going to get really obscure. Maybe somewhere in my top 8 or something. But
Avengers as far as Marvel movies, though, it's like my third favorite
top
one.
5,
Marvel Studios movies. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say that's probably my third favorite as far as Marvel Studios goes. Within my own personal, within my top favorite superhero movies, no real number. I'm going to say maybe it's somewhere within my top 10, maybe my top 8 or something. I don't know. But if I want to get really obscure. But the thing about that movie is that was one of the first ones where it felt like there was no transition between because usually even in the movies I love, it's kind of like one of those things. Even though I love Dark Knight, that's probably one of my favorite superhero movies, probably my top 2. There's that line he says, what was that name you gave me? We called you Two-Face. And then he turns is like, why should I hide what I am, And it's just like they never call him Two-Face again. It's just one of those things we just had to get the line in there. And that's well done compared to other things. There are other times where even though I like this Marvel movie, there's a part where like Incredible Hulk, they say that kind of gamma radiation, it could turn you into an abomination, that kind of dramatic pause. So it's like one of those things, like there is like that kind of thing. We got to tiptoe around it. You know what I mean?
Well,
And
we used to have that problem a
2,
lot. It seemed like back in like the 2000s, that was a problem. It was like, okay, we got to sort of say the name in there, but let's play it out like it's almost like a joke. Because we can't really call him the Abomination. We can't really call him Two-Face. And the one thing I do like about the 2010s is that we are allowed to finally call them by what they are, and nobody really questions it because it's fucking natural. That's how it should be. It's like, I think it was just there's too many old people that were scared that people were going to go like, it's going to seem corny the second that you say, he's Two-Face or she's Catwoman. You just can't fucking say it. That's just not going to work. And the nice thing is that nowadays, it's right about now, we're at that period where it's like, nope, we can call him it. We can dress him up in their fucking Deadpool costume. We can have him be exactly how he is. And people just take it because that's how they know him as. We don't need to fight it anymore.
Exactly. And I think it's one of those things where I think, what was I going to say? Yeah, like Avengers 2 was one of the only movies, even the really good superhero movies, that's the only one that felt exactly like a comic book. It had a whole bunch of characters in there. We got cameos from other characters, and it wasn't a big deal. They didn't have to stop the show. Like, look who it is. Huh? It just kind of carried on. Like, yeah, they're in Wakanda. They're going against Ulysses Claw. Not a big deal. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's the other thing is, like, even though I like, as much as I like the Dark Knight movies, I do feel like in the future, those movies are going to be looked upon as, yes, a stepping stone, but literally just that. They're going to, I feel like they're just going to be kind of looked upon as like, yeah, these are movies that they might have seemed ballsy at the time, but really in retrospect, they were very safe films, And as I said, once again, like I really like those movies, and I appreciate them for like the time they came out in and everything like that. And yeah, like really, like it was that time period where they didn't want to say the names of certain things. Really, probably the worst offender of that's like the third one of it, but still, like it's kind of one of those ones. It was a stepping stone, and I think since we're past that, hopefully now we'll just get Batman, and nobody will question that stuff anymore.
And I think Suicide's. Oh, I cut you off. Go ahead.
I was gonna say with both this and Suicide Squad, that was where we're gonna lead to that. This is like now we can just go. Who's that guy? His name's Croc. It's not like I go like, why is he called Croc? Well, because he looks like a giant fucking alligator. You fucking retard. It's like you just accept it.
Because he looks like a killer, Croc,
Yeah, like something dumb like that. Like we're past that point as we are, achieve into the 10s.
Well, I will say that like another thing I think I was saying there's a couple of things I think that's scaring people off. I think that some people I heard some people complaining, just kind of like I feel like every movie's a advertisement for the upcoming film, and I just think that's coming from someone who probably doesn't really. I mean. I don't want to sound elitist or like a dick here. I don't view it as that. I just think that, okay, here's what we got to come next. It's not really an advertisement. It's just there. And that's because, that's how comic books work. And I think that's coming from someone who probably doesn't read comics. I'm not trying to sound like a dick. I don't want to sound like an elitist or anything like that. But you know what I mean? I heard someone complain about like Avengers 2. Like, okay, so let me get this straight. You're going to put in the bad guy from Black Panther. Black Panther's not in it, so you could advertise Black Panther. It's like, no, he was part of the fucking story. I thought it was cool that he was in there. You know what I mean? So I think some people just don't. But that right there is an example of some people who just don't really, I guess, not going to say you're fucking wrong, but I just, you're just not into it as much. So, and that's kind of like a flag for some people. Another aspect is each movie now is trying to top the other and the other ones in some way. Like Avengers, first time we got all these heroes in the same movie. So now we got Batman and Superman in the same movie. So Suicide Squad, what are they going to do? They're going to try and make the dark and gritty one. They're going to make the one with a bunch of random characters in a very dark and gritty, like 80s style action movie.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I still think is the nice thing about like comics is it's a gold mine that is extraordinarily deep that you can mine for a long time because this stuff's been there forever. Where I think when other genres started to get burnt out, well, it's because they weren't nearly as deep as some other stuff. I mean, some people might say that like with video games, but I'm like, no, video games is another deep gold mine that not nearly as deep as comic books, but one that I just don't think got tapped well enough. That's why I hopefully hope that maybe that what's going to happen too is I could see this going on, that comic books are going to still do their run, but as they kind of peter off slowly, I think video game movies will start to build up because, you know, in about 5 more years, you'll be really accepting for a lot more people to like be the paying audience for a video game movie.
Yeah.
You know, because in a sense, we were like the test subjects of like video game movies. It sounds weird, but that's like we were like the first generation made for like that. I mean, you could still say like Tron or like The Last Starfighter, or what's that fucking one where he's playing the arcade game? Is that The Last Starfighter?
Last Starfighter, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, and for some reason I was thinking I had Starcade in my mind. I'm like, that's not it. That's the WCW like pay-per-view event. I don't know how that's messing me up, but like so you had those kind of like proto ones, but technically once they really based them off full on video games, it's like that was our, you know, we got Super Mario Brothers and Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat and then Tomb Raider and Resident Evil and so on. We were sort of the test audience for that. And it worked for a bit, and then it kind of petered out, like after, you know, Prince of Persia and so on. So now we're going to get this new band of, you know, kids, you know, that have been raised in the last 10 to 15 years that will be totally accepting of, like, video game movies. And then you'll have us on top of it, and then you'll have the people that are a little bit older than us. So you'll have this age range up to about 50 that should be able to take in all these video game movies next, like the age range is taking in the comic book stuff.
Warcraft might be the first really... I mean, look, I think there's good video game movies. I love the Mario Brothers movie. I understand some of the good criticisms I heard. I think some people beat up on that movie just for the sake of beating up on it. And I'm not going to... There are some things like, no, I get certain criticisms, and I understand why certain people don't like that movie. But I love that movie. There's nothing you can do take away that feeling of being like in kindergarten, just getting into Mario, and then a Mario movie comes out.
Yeah, like, come on.
Not the first movie you saw, but one of the first movies you saw. And just, you know, feeling like, oh my God, it's Mario, that's Luigi, there's flamethrowers, and there's jump boots, you know. So, you know, there's something just can't be really taken away from that, you know. So, but there, as long as you're born with it and you grew, you know. But, but what was I going to say? I think that there were, like, there's been other good video game movies, not tons, but there's been other good ones. I think if Warcraft does what they hope, because every once in a while, like, okay, this is the one, we're going to throw a lot of money into it and hope the best. And then, like, usually it just, you know, it just hasn't panned out. Like, Prince of Persia, Tomb Raider 2. Like, Tomb Raider 1 got bad reviews, but made a lot of money. Then Tomb Raider 2 didn't do so good. So, yeah. I think that, like, if Warcraft does really good and gets, like, both good critical reception as well as money, I think that it's one of those things that could probably put on, like, this whole second, like, wave of games. It's like wave of movies.
Yeah, because, you know, in a sense, like, you know, you had that good I'd say from Mario Brothers, what's that, 93, 94? All the way
Mario
up
Brothers
to
was 93, I think.
Yeah, it's just like from that one all the way up to, you know, 2005. I mean, yeah, you got mixed bags of ones that go up and down in different kind of levels, but, you know, I look at
same thing away from the mic.
I got like the good ones that in my mind that I would think is you know, Mario Brothers, Street Fighter. You know, going back and looking at when we did that podcast, I'm like, for that time period, because when I was a kid, that Street Fighter movie meant a lot to me too, because it's like, holy fuck, they got a Street Fighter movie out there too, you know. The Mortal Kombat one, of course, that one's there too. I think somebody who's like 10 years old now, if they went back and watched that movie, they'd look at that movie like, that movie's so fucking tame. But for the time period, yeah, it had to be PG-13. Like half your, you know, a lot of your target audience that can't go see a rated R movie, you know, so you can't do that then. But then, you know, going up, you know, even Tomb Raider, because Tomb Raider's it's not like the grandest movie, but it's still like, I probably enjoy it just from like a video game perspective more than like, I think the critics, they didn't give a flying fuck. They didn't know who the hell Tomb Raider was. So, like, how are they going to even appreciate anything out of the movie? Not saying it's, like, you know, a grand Indiana Jones-like movie, but if you don't have sort of the respect for the game, how are you going to even care about, you know, I mean, the character? And then other good ones that I like that some people always want to put me down for some reason is, like, fucking Doom. I thought that one was an extremely good video game movie. I mean, it's still a B movie, but I liked it a lot. And then the Resident Evil movies, even though a couple of them are kind of like, you know, a little bit on the lower side, but throughout those ones, yeah, and the Silent Hill one, the first one. That second one, not so much. I tried to get into that second Silent Hill one. That was one of those ones where I was just like, you know, I'm not a 13-year-old girl.
I don't see it. I
tried to be a 13-year-old girl. I tried to picture myself as that, and it just wasn't working out. I was just like, nope, I can't enjoy this one.
Well, Silent Hill, that number 2 or whatever, that was like one, like, I was, because Silent Hill is one that's universally kind of like, it's not like loved, like admired, but it's like, oh no, that's a good one. That's actually one of the highlights of video game movies. And
Yeah.
then they went back to make the second one. I'm like, ooh, quit while you're ahead. I
Yeah.
almost got kind of like scared for that movie because I was like, no, you just quit while you're ahead. I'm not saying don't try. I'm just saying just try something different, and then like I saw the reviews on that, like, fuck, okay.
I rented it off Netflix, so I don't feel like too much of a loss other than the fact that I had to drive back to the fucking post office to send it back. But I'll tell you, I didn't even finish the movie. I watched like a little over a half of it, and I was like, I think I'm done. And I mostly never do that. I'm not really saying like there's an audience for that movie. It's just that definitely wasn't me. Because that first Silent Hill, I kind of forgot about that one. I would actually say that might even be close to like the one or two of the best made video game movies out there. I'd say.
So it looks like the game. It feels
looks like the game. Feels like the game. You know, I mean, some extreme Silent Hill people will get all like critical about a couple things in it, but I mean, like overall, that really does. You know, it's like the first Resident Evil. That movie kind of captures the Resident Evil pretty well too, because it plays almost like it's a side story to like, you know, the first two Resident Evil games. Like it's like you could kind of believe that, like, okay, well, this was going on as the other stuff was happening. So that one kind of there captured it, you know, good enough. And hell, even the Resident Evil 4 took from the Resident Evil movie. So obviously it had some influential stuff to it with the lasers and everything. But after about that point, it's like then you started getting into like sort of like the almost like the C grade ones. You'd get like they had the Blood Rain ones, and then they made some other straight to DVD movies.
Well, Blood Rain, it was unfortunate because that movie had like actually a good cast. It's like they had like Ben Kingsley as the evil vampire. They had the chick from I mean, she's not in a whole bunch of stuff, but she played at the time. She was the evil Terminator in Terminator 3. And then they had Michael Madsen, they had Michelle Rodriguez, and possibly someone else, I don't remember who. And like, so it was a pretty good cast. And then I remember like, because all right, the first one took place in like World War II. Second one took place in modern times. I don't know if they made a third or fourth, but I know there's the first.
There's like a platforming one they made. I think that's technically like the third one.
And so it's just but then this movie was a medieval movie. Now, I know she's a vampire, so maybe it's a prequel, but I saw the last half of the movie on Sci-Fi Channel, where, you know, it's like, oh, I mean, this makes sense, it fits here. And the thing about that movie is maybe they explain it in the video. I thought, like, okay, so I guess this is a prequel to the game. But in the movie, she kills the bad guy that's in the game, played by Ben Kingsley. So I'm like, okay, so I mean, I'm not huge into Blood Rain lore and all that shit. But I mean,
I'll say this. Sadly enough, even though that game, that's one of those kind of games with.
It was big for the moment.
No, yeah, for the moment, that game was fucking huge. I actually never played it, but it was like God of War big when that game came out. But it's such like you ask a fucking 10-year-old on the street like what the fuck Blood Rain is, they'll think you're just trying to rape them or something. Like they'll have no idea what you're asking.
Hey, like the van rolls up. Hey, kid, want some Blood Rain?
Like, okay, he's gonna drag me into his van. It's like, oh, no, this is our news van. It's not a rape van.
See the camera on the side? Yeah, camera for snuff films. Oh fuck, go Jerry, go.
This kid's too smart. He'll take us in. But
the thing about that, because I remember there was a point like right when I first got like a real paying job. So one of those things was like, wait. So each page now it's just like, how the fuck did I, you know? It's like each paycheck is like $80. I can get at least one video game a month. You know what I mean? So like, and I was at that point like, oh my god, I just saved up and just would go to like Walmart and just really. It makes sense depressing when I put it that way. It's like, guess what? I never played Blood Rain 1, I'm just gonna get Blood Rain 2 because fuck it, I got the money. And you know that game.
America, slap it down.
Well, for being like, you know, like a 15-year-old kid cranked out on Mountain Dew, it worked fine. But looking back, I'm like, yeah, that game didn't have a whole lot of substance. It was really just tits and just like B-horror violence.
Yeah, and that's what it was kind of playing off of. But like, that's the thing though, for a movie, I think the Blood Rain concept could totally work because it's like, dude, you got a vampire lady, she's gonna go, who's kind of almost like Vampira, and then she's battling Nazis. It's like, dude, like, it's instant recipe for a great film. It's just like, but it sounds like they just did because I actually didn't see that movie, so I don't know what I'm not saying anything bad against it. I just know that it just it didn't help out the video game movie industry. Let's just say that.
Well, it's the same guy who like it's that German guy, Yui Bolov or whatever. That guy there's like attack. He's like what is it exactly? There's some kind of weird tax law in Germany, so where he gets these movies for a very it's almost like a scam. He's able to get like the rights to video games because of Germany's tax, because video games aren't viewed as a certain type of arts or something like that. So he made like a Far Cry movie. He made a Blood Rain movie.
That's right.
I don't know if he made Blood Rain 2. He did. He did like
I think because that's
Postal,
the same guy.
House of the Dead.
Oh yeah, but then there was House of the Dead, and I remember as a kid like fucking defending that movie. That one's not really that good, like when I think back on it. But like at the time, I think at the time period is. For just like our generation, you were just grateful for wherever you got. There was like, why complain? This is all we got. Like, I'm not gonna bitch about it. It might not be the greatest thing ever, but I'm gonna act like it is.
Mm-hmm. And he'd also like literally kind of like, whenever he get like a bad review, he'd like threaten to kick the critic's ass and kind of go on the internet, go on a big rant. And he actually, what was it? There was like there was some video game he was trying to get a hold of, and I don't remember which one it was, but I remember it was a bigger game. It was a game with a pretty dedicated fan basis. He's just like, no, I really want to get that movie right there, make a movie out of that, you know.
I think it was a Castlevania one. I think
was it Castlevania? Because he was
really
it was
trying. It was him and fucking Paul W. No, yeah, it was Paul Thomas Anderson. Paul W.S. Anderson were gonna be like, I think working together to make the Castlevania movie.
It wasn't well, maybe at some point it was Castlevania, but this is like probably like 2 years ago. He was really pushing to like get. I'm not sure if it was Warcraft, but it was something with a big fan basis, and everyone was like, no, and the creators are like, no, clearly you're not wanted. Then he went on a big rant against whoever it was that like whatever company denied him that, because it was one of those things where it was like he could actually, even if the movie did bad, there was some weird tax thing where he could still walk away, almost getting rich off this movie. So.
Well, he was doing one of those ones where, like, because it's sort of like the old-fashioned New Line Cinema way of making a movie, where they did, the way those movies were is, like, you came in, you pitched your movie idea, and a guy was like, sounds like this movie's going to make $20 million, so here's $10 million to make it. And that guy always made money off his movies. And then finally, you know, he did things like Nightmare on Elm Street and Ninja Turtles, where, like, you make your movie for $20 million, and you end up making, like, over $100 million plus dollars. But that was like the way he did. He just looked at the movie and said, okay, I'm picturing it making this much money, so here's half the money to make it. So he was a win-win. And I think this guy does similar things too. That's why the movies aren't that good, but he knows that, like, hey, for $5 million, we can make this kind of shitty movie.
As
enough fans will show up to spend $10 million plus, and I walk away with a check. You know what I mean?
He also made, I don't think it was Elder
He made
Scrolls
that Rampage movie, though, I
big,
think. That was really fucking awesome.
Rampage?
Yeah, I watched it like on. I think I saw it on
like Rampage and like the monsters.
No. It's not a video game one. It's about a guy who shoots up a town. But like, I was actually really impressed. It was one of those ones where I was just like flipping through Netflix and going, "Fuck it, I guess I'll watch this one with the guy with the fucking gas mask and the machine gun." And then like watching it, it was like at first it was like, okay, this guy's kind of annoying. Okay, whatever. But then after a while, I was like, oh no, this movie's fucking ballsy and good. And like, I think there's like a second one stuff now. I don't know if you could. You know, it's like that's one of those movies you can only make once, but it's really good. It's worth checking out. If you see that one, and I think he even fucking writes and directs it somehow, some way. But I think maybe it's one of those things.
If you made
it's not a property, it's his own thing. That's why it works. But
like, I know that guy. I know a lot of people hate. Well, if he made a good movie, good for him. You know, about time. You know, I guess if it swing long enough, he hit one. You'll get one in there. But I think that I don't know if like people still let him making video game movies anymore, but like they just flat out put a ban on him because he was trying to like save up money to make another thing, and then he actually the fact that he didn't get enough of support on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, he posted this video on I think it was YouTube or something of him complaining, saying, "Fuck you all! You want to go see Age of Ultron Avengers, but you don't want to see my movie. Fuck you!" You know, just kind of like almost hating his fans for not paying more money to get this thing made or whatever. So
yeah, he just sounds like a spoiled sport. But what they really need to do is they just need to get a bunch of 30-year-old guys together, and hell, even younger than that sometimes, maybe late 20s, and go, yo, you guys get together. We'll pay the money. We'll foot the bill, but we're not going to question it. Just make a damn good video game movie. And I think that's just what's missing. Is you just get too many old guys or people that don't know enough about video games trying to put their input in, and that kind of like fucks things up. Like I think it's like that's kind of like the Prince of Persia movie too. It's like one of those ones like if you would have just said like just do it the way that the game is, just don't change anything, just do it exactly the way the game is, then it might have worked out. I don't know. That's still the Prince of Persia is still kind of a ballsy choice to like put your bank on. You know what I mean? Because Prince of Persia, well known to gamers, not so well known to like a lot of other people outside of that, and even gamers itself is it's not the most popular game.
I think it was one of those things where, because for a while I was like, is this thing ever coming out? Because they talked about that movie, and it was like, okay, Prince of Persia movie happening. And I think it's one of those points where they started it right when the Sands of Time came out, right when that game was big and kind of got a lot of public, like a lot of people liked it a lot and like positive reaction. And then by the time, however, because it took a long time for that movie to come out. And when it finally did come out, people are like, oh, right, that. Yeah, okay. You know what I mean? I think it was within that time, the script probably changed a lot, became something different, probably. But, I mean, I'm going to say eventually we will hit this big, like, stride of good video game movies. I mean, well, if you look long enough, you can find a few good video game movies, but I think we're going to hit this point where they become almost like comics, like you mentioned. Because go online, look long enough, you'll find some very, very good fan films. There's that Street Fighter, like Assassin's Fist. It could be better, but it's still pretty good.
Yeah.
You got that Metroid movie you sent me a few months ago. You got there's
the Mortal Kombat Legacy ones. Those are good examples.
So you look long enough, you'll find something that like people are gonna want to make you'll find a good director. You know.
Well, the cool thing too about like I think the Street Fighter one and the Mortal Kombat Legacy one is those ones are considered like official films too. It's like that's neat when like you make a fan film of Mortal Kombat and then you fucking get Ed Boon calling you up going, hey, you want to be the actual fucking Warner Brothers Mortal Kombat like new movie? That's pretty badass.
Is he actually doing did he just get funded for Legacy, or is he actually doing the
Well,
movie
he got funded for those Legacy ones they're Warner Brothers movies.
Okay, yeah. And then I wouldn't surprise me if they have a new Street Fighter new Mortal Kombat movie coming out. I imagine they would.
They've been working on it since like '99, so hopefully it will come out at some point, but
Legend of Chun-Li, though, that movie seemed like something that probably would have came out, like, not even when it did, because that movie came out, like, in 2008 or 2009. That seems like something that probably would have come out, like, in 99.
Well, yeah, exactly. Legend of Chun-Li, that reminds me of sort of like if there was the decline.
Huge step back.
If there was the decline of video game movies, that was like the ones. It was, well, you know, here's the problem, too, is it mixes in with what was wrong in the 2000s. It was a time period when they're trying to totally ground things in reality. So that's why you got Street Fighter 1994, and everybody's pretty much in their costumes. I mean, yeah, it's still a little bit kind of cheesy and campy and stuff, but, everybody's pretty recognizable. No matter what, you can still kind of get who's who. And they have just about every single person in there. You cut to 2008 or 9, whenever that movie, I think 2009 probably is when it was, Street Fighter Legend of Chun-Li, and that's the movie where it's like, if that movie was on silent, you would have no idea what the fuck you were watching. You would never know you were watching Street Fighter. You would never know that was Chun-Li, or that was supposed to be M. Bison, or for fuck's sake, that's supposed to be Charlie. You know what I mean? You would never, that would never even cross your mind, because they were trying to so ground that movie in reality, trying to hide that it was a video game movie, which is funny how like things go in waves like that, where I was like, okay, they're almost more ballsy in 1994 and going pretty close to the game. I mean, for really what you're basing it off of at that time period. And then to have it be later on, no, we're not going to try that hard.
Mm-hmm. No, that was a total fuck you. Just kind of like, that was like a big point when I was like, fuck 20th Century Fox. I mean, they still got some good movies here and there, but that was a real fuck you point of them,
Exactly. So I just hope
like, we know people see it.
I just hope that Warcraft movie this year does good. And this comes from somebody who doesn't really even care about Warcraft. I'm not saying anything against it, but it's never been my thing. World of Warcraft, that would never be a game I would get into. And the old Warcraft, when they were like the real-time strategy games, like that's cool. But I was always playing Command and Conquer. I always need something with a little bit of like America and Soviets in it to keep me occupied. I don't know, orcs and like fairies don't always do it, but
yeah, that's like one of those things where like I'm not really into war. Let me put it this way. I never played World of Warcraft. I have no desire to play World of Warcraft. But there was one day where I heard someone talk about like a trailer for some new Blizzard game coming out. I think it was Overwatch. And I watched that trailer. I'm like, oh my God, this is like a very well. I absolutely love the art style. I thought it was really. I'd like to see these guys just do a movie. Just these guys do a CG movie. So then I just went down and watched Blizzard doing like some of the cutscenes from like some of the well done CG cutscenes from with the various Warcraft games. And I was like, all right. I know the gameplay doesn't work like this, so I do not want to play the game, but I want to see these guys do a movie. Not like a live action thing. I want to see a CG movie done by these guys. Now, it's kind of close. The humans are all real, but everybody else is all like cartoon. So, but anyway, I still want to see it. I'm going to hope for the best. I'm not dying to see it, but we'll see what happens.
It's one of those ones like, yeah, it's one of those ones like if there wasn't reason behind it, I probably wouldn't go and see it. Not saying the movie's not good, but it's not really my type of thing. But knowing that this is what's going to support the video game industry, and from this point on, it's literally the stepping stone. Because if this movie doesn't do good, we're back to like, okay, won't see another video game movie for 5 years. You know,
what is cool is Ratchet and I'll cut you off. Go ahead.
As I say, except for maybe a couple straight DVD ones and so on. Like we kind of got like. Sort of those, there's that Halo one that came out, and then there's been a couple Assassin's Creed ones, and so on. There's supposed to be, I think, a big budget Assassin's Creed movie coming out soon.
Yeah, which I'm not really that excited for that, but we'll see what happens. Apparently, it's supposed to star Michael Fassbender, so at least they got someone big.
Yeah, that's what I heard. That one, like, if they do it like the way that the game is, I think it could be really cool. And I will say that's a more like likely choice because. Assassin's Creed, I think a lot more people know, sort of. That's kind of a big game still. I mean, it's kind of on its like decline where not as many people are into it as much as it once was. If you probably would have done it in like 2011 or 12, like before it got kind of like overpopulated, maybe you could have got a little bit bigger reaction. But I still think it would do well. I would definitely go see that one.
Yeah, definitely. I think that what was I going to say regarding that? Regarding movies coming out regarding video games and regarding movies coming out and all that shit. I think that Ratchet and Clank that has a CG movie coming out, but that's actually made by the company that made the video game. So
that's
the guys
sweet.
that did all the cuts. So I want to see that one, even though I never played a Ratchet and Clank game, just to support it and hope it turns out being pretty good. I'm probably end up checking that one out, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, same here. It's like I'm willing to support any and all video game movies, just for the fact that
unless it's Angry Birds.
Yeah, I will say though that is another touching stone. If that movie does good, it still goes into the pot of like, hey, video game movies are viable once again. That doesn't mean I'll probably go see that movie. And I will say, the trailer, it wasn't a bad trailer. I don't know anything about Angry Birds. I don't think I'd go see it, but I watched the trailer. I'm like, okay, I get it. Like they made some kind of story off of it,
I will say the one part where he just kind of like, there's the one bird kicking the ball against his house. He goes up there, just looks at him, smiles at him. He just like raises his eyes, like raises his eyebrows, smiles, then just flat out kicks him. I kind of chuckled in that part.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's a couple moments I chuckled at. Like I was gonna say, for being kind of like, cause the only thing about because Angry Bird, like those kind of games, just remember like those are the ones I always go. Those aren't real video games. Those are, games made. I mean, in a sense, technically they are by the term video game, yes, but they're not like. Nowadays, it's like when you think of a video game, it's like it's got to have a big story, it's got to have a big universe, it's got to have stuff going on in it. You got to get something from it, and those are the kind where it's just like, well, you just play that for fun, just to pass 5 minutes. So I was like, not a real game, not artistic quality to it.
I spit at that while I adjust my monocle. Thank you.
Exactly, but I will say, as well as ones like if anybody goes and sees it, you're probably helping out the cause than you are like. Going against it.
Helping out the cause. Well, let me ask you this. Wreck-It Ralph did good. How many video game movies have we seen since Wreck-It Ralph?
None. That one didn't really help the cause, I guess. So maybe Angry Birds do. Maybe that's not the right ones because those...
They're just going to see CG. They're not going to see video games. They're just going to see CG. Like, they probably recognize a big enough difference in the market between cuddly CG characters that came from a video game
big
you can
orcs.
sell a stuffed animal of that as opposed to kind of like M-rated Gears of War, Assassin's Creed,
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's kind of like, here's the thing. Here's another one, kind of a lost one already. The Pixels movie. That didn't really help out video game cause either.
Oh, God, no. That was one... I had such conflicting feelings when I first saw that trailer, because the concept alone, a self-aware movie about like oh, video game, like 8-bit video games are coming to destroy the world. Like, oh, I'm sold. Then I saw like the cast. Like, no. I mean, I know this is like a lot of my childhood right here, but no, I don't. Oh, fuck. Then I heard like a review of the movie. I'm like, no, you got to be kidding me. It's as bad as everyone said it would be. Okay.
Did you see it?
I didn't see it, no, but people whose opinion I trust told me how bad it is.
It's one of those ones. Someday,
you saw it?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
I'm not helping that cause either, apparently. But someday I would like to sit down and watch it, whether it be bad, whether it be good. I'm not expecting it to be no masterpiece. I don't know, where, but it does have Donkey Kong in it. I mean, like
Pac-Man.
Yeah, Pac-Man, but it's one of those ones. It definitely, yeah. It's that movie was still one of those ones. If that movie did good, it still would have been a step in the right direction. They just got to kind of stop stumbling and just hopefully get one. As I said, that Warcraft one, that's the one to bet money on right now. That's the price horse. If it does good, we will get a lot more.
I feel a little bad saying this. Pixels, I mean, as silly as that concept sounds, I mean, I feel bad because I grew up watching this guy. And it's not like I'm like, fuck Adam Sandler, fuck him. It's not even like that.
I want him to do good.
He just doesn't make movies I'm interested in anymore. That's all it is. It's not like I hate him. I don't have this begrudging, like burning hatred for this guy. Same with Kevin James. It's just that whole cast of actors just don't do a lot for me. The thing is, if you probably had some weird cast of like, okay, like we're gonna get just, I don't know, say, I'm not saying this guy. I'm not saying this guy. I'm just saying probably realistic cast. I'm just like, oh yeah, Brad Pitt, Denzel Washington, not like some amazing dream cast of everybody you'd ever want.
Yeah.
But just some kind of like cast that would be likely that could probably sell this movie off.
Uh-huh.
Probably like Jonah Hill, the guy that played McLovin, Chris Michael-Pins, I think his name is. Maybe someone like what's her name? Scott Pilgrim,
fucking
Mary Elizabeth
Mary
Winstead,
Elizabeth Winstead,
or even the other chick that's in Scott Pilgrim, she's in a bunch of stuff, but she plays the bitch in Scott Pilgrim. But she's in a bunch of stuff. She has the glasses. She's kind of tan.
Yeah,
Abrielle something, whatever. Like if you had like a cast of like younger kind of like actors with a little bit of with some comedy chops to them, I think that probably would have been like, or even like, or John Goodman's the old cranky old guy that has to run the team or whatever. Like if you had like a cast like that, I'd probably, like it was still a comedy, I'd probably be more willing to see that. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, I can see what you mean. I think is here, in a sense, the audience that they're shooting for in Pixels, it's literally shooting for that like 50-year-old audience. Like, hey, you remember playing video games in 1979? That's like the target audience they're shooting for. Which is a weird one to pick. You almost should be shooting for the video game audience you want is almost under that. You want somebody between the ages of like 20 to 40, or even 10 to 40. That's like who you want, and they shot above that. And I think that was probably the wrong thing to do.
Well, I think that Pac-Man and Centipede are universally well known enough to like, okay, that. But I just think it's like the cast they got.
Well, that's the cast for like somebody who's like technically 40 to 50 years old.
No, because I don't even know about 40 or 50 years old because the cast right there is still. I mean, the whole thing is like, okay, these guys were champions back in the day, so I guess it makes sense why they're that old.
Well, let me rephrase this because I know they were like actors of our generation, but age-wise, that's where they are age-wise. So if you're going to be relating to these characters, you got to be in their like 50-year-old range or so.
To me, that doesn't bother. You could have fucking thrown Clint Eastwood in this movie going after Pac-Man, and I would have fucking been there day one. So,
I get that there when you're throwing in things like that, but I'm just looking at the way that movie was structured and like how it kind of is presented, because it's not presented as.
Or you know what they could have done? They could have even got something. I'm not saying like have everybody in the cast like this, but you probably could have got a famous YouTube or Let's Player personality like Dodger or one of the Game Grumps. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess you could go for something like that too. Even like I mean, obviously there's different ways to go about it. It's clearly.
I'm saying this like a year after the movie came out. Like here's what they could have done to a movie I didn't see.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm just talking about like I think it's really the concept has me. It's strictly the cast that pushed me away.
Which is sad, because that's a cast that, like,
I used to
15 years ago would have been the best cast ever for it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, it's the weird thing about that. If that movie was made, you know, even probably 10 years ago, it probably might have been ideal. You know, you would have totally taken me like, yeah, fucking A, right. But just now, it's just... And here's the thing is, I want Adam Sandler to do good. That's all I want for him. I just want him to make just... Which I was actually talking to a guy the other day.
Just want you to be
I was talking to a guy the other day who said, by watching some of the last Adam Sandler movies that came out, he's like, no. He's like, there's some Adam Sandler movies you should check out. He actually has had kind of a better comeback in some of the recent ones. I'm not going to say they're like the best Adam Sandler ones, but he's getting closer to being more like what you want him to be. Like, there was that one where he was good. Like the dad that was only like 10 years older or whatever it was.
Oh, That's My Boy or whatever.
Yeah, I heard that one was actually like pretty good as far as an Adam Sandler movie goes. I think there's one other one this guy was telling me about. So, as I said, I want him to do good. I don't want any, like, some people out there just want like I hope he fucking dies. And it's like, but you used to love him when you were a kid. Yeah, well, fuck him now. And it's like, I'm not like that. I'm like, I only hope the best. I hope he lives the grandest life ever and finally just gets to make the movies that I want to see.
The movies that he wants to see are just the ones.
Exactly. No, but it is that sort of thing.
We should probably get going, though, because we're going over 2 hours now.
We've reached 2 hours. That's a bad place to go. We'd like to stop there. So make sure to go check out oldmanorange.com for more podcasts, cartoons, music, and more. Until then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I'm Red Dunigan.
And we will see you some other time.
Later, folks. Bye.
There you go.
Thanks for listening to the Old Man Orange podcast. Check out our website at oldmanorange.com for even more podcasts, cartoons, videos, music, and more. Send us an email at oldmanorangepodcast@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review us on iTunes, Podomatic, or any of the other fine sites we might be located on. If you want to help out even more, click on the Amazon or GameStop links on our webpage before you make any purchases there. It won't cost you a penny, but it sends us a little something our way. Thanks again, and tune in next week for more Old Man Orange Podcast.